Chapter 1994. And Lin could feel a terrifying power surging within his body. A very special power of the heavenly gods even flowed directly into his heart. This power didn't actually flow into his heart. Instead, it flowed into a black dot within his heart. That black dot was actually his divine Tao of darkness. And Lin could feel his divine Tao of darkness becoming more and more powerful. This was a very special feeling, as if his darkness had become purer and more engulfing. Lan Xiaoni let loose a cry of surprise as she watched the egg in Lin was stroking disintegrate at a rate discernible to the naked eye. My God, is this a brand new way of eating eggs? And Lin retorted, Don't spout nonsense. I'm not eating the egg. How could I possibly eat the egg? I'm absorbing the egg's energy. Do you understand? Lan Xiaoni nodded blankly. Does it taste good? It does. And Lin replied with an honest expression. The black egg's energy and essence all flowed into Lin's body and were completely absorbed. The only things that turned into powder were the non-nutritious residue on the egg. Soon, the black egg was completely absorbed, and Lin heaved a heavy sigh as his eyes glowed with boundless light. He knew that he had become a lot more powerful. The power of the heavenly gods was strengthening his divine Tao of darkness, and the nourishing essence was strengthening his body. To him, this was absolutely a great fortune. And Lin looked at the remaining 14 black eggs and began to absorb them one by one. With each egg he absorbed, and Lin became a little more powerful. He knew that each black egg represented the essence of a heavenly god. Absorbing a black egg was equivalent to absorbing a heavenly god into his body. As such, the increase in power he received was extremely terrifying. 2, 3, 4, 5, and Lin's aura became more and more terrifying. Even the true element martial lord and Lan Xiaoni could sense this, and they couldn't help but stare at the man who was sucking the eggs relentlessly. Demon Lord Ling Gu looked like he was about to die from the pain of eating a single black egg. However, Lin was completely fine after eating one egg after another. On top of that, he was also quickly becoming more powerful. The two of them were worlds apart. Burp. When Lin finished the 14th one, he burped. He looked at the last black egg. As long as he ate this one, his mission would be completed. In reality, it didn't really matter whether he completed the mission or not. After all, he had already become more powerful. He was so bad assessed that he felt like he could beat up the severely wounded heavenly sea god. Of course, this was just how he felt. Chi, and Lin began to devour the last black egg. With a shake of his arms, he had become stronger again. Come on, system, give me a reward. And Lin shouted in his heart. However, everything was so quiet, and Lin noticed that the system didn't ding-dong. He looked at the system in shock and found that the quest was incomplete. And Lin's eyes widened, and his divine sense burst forth to scan the hundreds of millions of heavenly human eggs on the island. Indeed, there were no more black eggs. He had already completed the quest and absorbed all the black eggs. What's going on? Why isn't the mission completed yet? Could it be that the system is retarded? And Lin suddenly panicked. The quest reward wasn't that important. However, if he failed the mission, the 2 eggs on his body would be erased. This was something that he definitely couldn't bear. Lan Xiaoni turned to Lin with a curious expression. What's wrong, Big Boss Lin? What happened? Where are my eggs? Where are my eggs? And Lin's face was drenched in cold sweat as he spoke in a panicked voice. The time limit for the mission was 2 hours, and he didn't have much time left. If he failed the mission, your eggs? Lan Xiaoni blinked her limpid eyes, and she casually glanced down at Lin's crotch as a deep blush appeared on her face. Didn't you say that you'll replenish whatever you eat? That can't be right. Did you eat all your eggs? What did you say? And Lin stared at Lan Xiaoni with a blank expression before suddenly realizing what Lan Xiaoni was implying, and he almost threw up a mouthful of blood. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the black eggs. However, it appeared that Lan Xiaoni was right. If things continued like this, he really was going to eat all of his eggs until he ran out of eggs. Oh, so that's not what you're talking about. Lan Xiaoni's blush deepened, and she was so ashamed that she almost wanted to crawl into the ocean. It was over. When did she become so filthy? What was she going to do if Big Boss and Lin found out about this? Was her reputation as the West Sea Alliance leader going to crumble in front of Big Boss and Lin? And Lin didn't have the time to worry about Lan Xiaoni. He was still looking for eggs. Didn't you eat all the black eggs? The true element martial lord couldn't help but ask, if there really are other eggs, could it be that the heavenly sea god snuck them away? And Lin's body shuddered. If the heavenly sea god really did take them away, then wouldn't the mission be hellish? He had thought that this was a free mission, but it turned out to be a hellish mission? No, I have to calm down. The heavenly sea god had said that he was going to destroy all of the eggs. He didn't like disobedient heavenly human tribe cultivators, so it was extremely unlikely that he would keep the eggs with him. He must have missed something with this in mind, and Lin suddenly turned toward Demon Lord Ling Gu, who was still struggling on the ground. It's been so long. Why is Demon Lord Ling Gu still rolling around on the ground? Is he still suffering from indigestion? And Lin's lips twitched. Could it be? Demon Lord Ling Gu felt like he was about to die. The energy within his body felt like it was about to explode. The amount of energy he absorbed was far less than the amount of energy released by the eggs in his body, and the energy he absorbed was severely out of balance. As such, his body would collapse and he would die. Right at this moment, a white-robed figure appeared before him. Sect leader and Lin. Demon Lord Ling Gu's expression faltered slightly at the sight of the man flying toward him. Mr. Ling Gu, I'm here to help you. And Lin looked at him with an extremely urgent expression, as if he couldn't afford to waste even a single second. Demon Lord Ling Gu's heart was filled with warmth. Tears welled up in his eyes upon seeing sect leader and Lin, whom he revered immensely, being so concerned for him. Whoosh! Demon Lord Ling Gu's massive body was flung into the sky by Lin, and Lin leaped behind Demon Lord Ling Gu with his fists clenched tightly. Wait, sect leader and Lin, could it be that you're trying to... Demon Lord Ling Gu's expression shifted drastically as he recalled the terrifying fist Lin had unleashed. As if to confirm his suspicions, and Lin's fist began to glow with a golden light. No, wait, I'll do it myself. Demon Lord Ling Gu was completely petrified, and he yelled in a loud voice. And Lin's fist was powerful enough to make the heavenly sea god vomit blood. If it landed on his body, he would definitely die. And Lin acted as if he didn't hear him, and his fist crashed into Demon Lord Ling Gu's back. Mr. Ling Gu, I'm here to save you. Mountain quaking fist. Boom! His fist was like 1,000,000,000,000 tons of force, and it instantly caved in Demon Lord Ling Gu's back. Demon Lord Ling Gu was struck by an excruciating pain as his stomach churned. A sense of impending death surged through his entire body, and he was on the verge of tears. Wah! Erg! A large pile of undigested eggs, mixed with green stomach acid, was spat out like a waterfall, big and small pearls falling onto a jade plate. This was an extremely spectacular scene. Lan Xiaoni's eyes widened, and she silently pinched her nose. Found it! And Lin's eyes lit up, and he waved a hand, upon which a black egg flew toward him. The eggs hadn't been digested yet, so he had saved them. Chapter 1995. And Lin picked up the black egg and smiled at the pained demon, Lord Ling Gu. Fellow Cultivator Ling Gu, I've successfully removed the source of your pain. There's no need to thank me. Demon Lord Ling Gu clutched his back as tears streamed down his face from the pain. He had removed the source of pain from the black egg, but his fist had become the new source of pain, and Lin ignored Demon Lord Ling Gu. At this moment, the egg was the most valuable thing for him to protect. He washed the black egg with water, and even used the divine liquid of creation cultivation method to wash the egg completely clean. Only then did he touch the shell of the egg and absorb it to his heart's content. It didn't take long for Enlin to completely absorb the black egg. His power had increased once again. Ding dong! The system finally chimed in. Congratulations, host, on mission completion. Mission completion reward is now bestowed. And Lin was instantly very excited. Everything produced by the system was definitely of the highest quality. This could be seen from the frying pan and the black brick. Now, the system was giving him a karmic dual tribulation weapon. Just from the name alone, one could tell that this was an extremely badass weapon. A dazzling light began to flash. The weapon of Enlin's dreams began to appear in his hands. His pupils began to contract slowly, and finally his eyes widened. His face was full of shock and disbelief, and even the hand holding the weapon began to tremble. There was only one thought echoing in his mind. Holy F asterisk CK! What the F asterisk CK is this thing? There was a Y-shaped black slingshot in his hand. On the two ends of the slingshot, there were two egg-like balls, one white and one red, connected by thin energy threads. So this was the karmic dual tribulation weapon? There was no divine light, no phenomenon, no exquisite workmanship. There was nothing. It felt like this was a shoddy toy. It was even more shoddy than the frying pan and the black brick. And Lin swung the Y-shaped slingshot in his hand, and the two egg-shaped balls on both ends of the slingshot shook as well. This gave Enlin a strange feeling. He kept feeling that this thing looked like something. When he placed the Y-shaped slingshot horizontally, looked at the pitch-black slingshot, and then flicked the two eggs under the slingshot, he finally knew what this thing looked like. F asterisk CK! And Lin couldn't help but curse. A deep blush appeared on Lan Xiaoni's face. Big Boss and Lin, what is that thing? It looks so weird, and Lin's chest tightened. Looking at this girl's expression, she must have also discovered the uniqueness of this weapon. You're still pretending not to know? Your expression has already betrayed you. This thing is called the Karma Dual Calamity Weapon. And Lin said with a solemn expression, What kind of name is that? Lan Xiaoni stared at Enlin with shock in her eyes, as if to say that he was lying to her. Let alone Lan Xiaoni, even Enlin himself didn't believe that this thing could have such a name. He felt like calling it the Armstrong Cyclone Jet Armstrong Cannon was a more accurate description. Everything produced by the system had to be of the highest quality. This was Enlin's undying belief. He felt like even though this thing was a little ugly, it was definitely going to be quite useful. After all, this was a reward for sacrificing 16 heavenly gods to the heavens. But how was he supposed to use it? There were no instructions here. And Lin thought about it for a moment before a white light flashed through his eyes, and he activated his divine inspection technique. Karma Dual Calamity Weapon. Paramount Karma Weapon. The red egg is the leftover egg tribulation, while the white egg is the wronged egg tribulation. Strike the enemy's body with the wronged egg tribulation first. Then strike the enemy's body with the leftover egg tribulation within 1 minute to trigger the karma tribulation of doom, which will deal a lethal blow to the enemy. And Lin, what was going on with this explanation that seemed like a game? Wronged egg tribulation? Leftover egg tribulation? Don't think I haven't had my fair share of bad blood on Earth. And Lin was on the verge of vomiting. Was this thing really useful? He had absolute faith in the system's products, but he was starting to have doubts now. He had to find something to test its power on, but there were no enemies here. What if his little friend was Doom? He was about to die from frustration. So be it, I'll put it away for now. And Lin stowed this strange object into his storage ring. Lan Xiaoni turned toward him with a curious expression. Big Boss and Lin, what's wrong? Your expression doesn't look quite right. My balls are hurting. And Lin replied, Demon Lord Ling Gu's anguished cry subsided, and he finally caught his breath. He crawled up from the ground and expressed his gratitude to Enlin before continuing to eat his eggs. In no time, all 1 billion eggs had been devoured by Demon Lord Ling Gu. His six-pack abdomen had become a single pack, and it was as if he had been pregnant for many years. This was even after the eggs had been compressed into an extremely concentrated form of energy. If they hadn't been compressed, his body would have exploded from the eggs. Now, it's time to put an end to this operation. And Lin leaped into the air, and a ring appeared behind him. At the same time, scorching holy flames burst forth from his fists. His arms bulged crimson, and a terrifying amount of energy accumulated. 5 elemental body, 8 times flame Qilin arms. Boom! The flaming fist fell from the sky like a meteorite and crashed heavily into Shiming Island. The terrifying power of the fist smashed the gigantic island, which spanned over 1,000 kilometers, into pieces. Then it was incinerated into nothingness by the boundless flames. The seawater began to churn and swallow the last remnants of the island. From now on, the West Sea would forever have one less island. And Lin left with Lan Xiaoni, Lan Xingyang, Demon Lord Ling Gu, and the True Element Martial Lord. At the eastern heavenly gate, within a sea of light, a small lake beside the heavenly light goddess began to shimmer. She walked to the side of the small lake, and a smile appeared on her face. "See, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly contact us?" The heavenly earth god's voice also traveled over. "See, is there some good news for you to contact us at the same time? Could it be that the 1 billion heavenly human tribe members have already hatched? Hee, is the human race's most desperate moment finally coming?" The heavenly light goddess also spoke. There are only 10 million heavenly human tribe members left on the Eastern Front. We're just waiting for your 1 billion heavenly human tribe members to join the battle. Then we'll launch a decisive battle. Light, Earth. The heavenly sea god suddenly choked with sobs. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's all my fault." A sense of foreboding welled up in the hearts of the heavenly light goddess and the heavenly earth god. "What happened?" the heavenly light goddess asked. "Speak slowly," the heavenly earth god said in a low voice. The heavenly sea god's voice traveled over. "The 1 billion heavenly human eggs are gone." Boom! The heavenly sea god's voice was like a clap of thunder exploding beside the heavenly light goddess and the heavenly earth god's ears. Both of them fell silent. "Do you know what you're saying?" "See." The heavenly light goddess's words were imbued with unimaginable rage. The surrounding sea of light became extremely dazzling, as if it could explode at any moment. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I was careless and allowed Enlin to take advantage of me." "That's right. Those 1 billion heavenly human eggs were all destroyed by Enlin." Chapter 1996. The heavenly light goddess and the heavenly earth god were both dumbstruck. Enlin? It was Enlin again. F***CK. This Enlin. Does he really think we can't deal with him? The heavenly earth god was enraged, and his voice became extremely gloomy. "Our trump card is gone, just like that." The heavenly light goddess was still reeling from the blow she had just received. She had expended 100 million heavenly human tribe united army to reduce the kingdom of the 9 states united army to only 10 million. She had wanted to exhaust more of the kingdom of the 9 states united army so that the 1 billion heavenly human tribe united army could deal a fatal blow to the human race. But now, she was told that the 1 billion heavenly human tribe united army was gone. The heavenly sea god was also grief-stricken, and he recounted everything that had happened to him, including how he had tried to tamper with Lan Xiaoni's memories in order to better control her power of water, as well as how Enlin had miraculously found him and how he had cleverly broken through his formation. The heavenly light goddess and the heavenly earth god were both shocked to hear this. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? However, it was so real that they couldn't refute it. The heavenly sea god wept as he begged the heavenly earth god and the heavenly light goddess to punish him severely. Otherwise, he would feel very guilty. The two heavenly gods were both furious and resentful toward the heavenly sea god. Punish him? He looked like he was about to King die. If they punished him, would they have to kill him? They hated the heavenly sea god for dropping the ball at such a crucial moment. Perhaps it was because they were too angry that they didn't even have the energy to curse at him. We'll talk about this later. Protect the western heavenly gate first. The heavenly light goddess instructed. The heavenly light goddess and the heavenly earth god cut off their communication. Was this the end? No, this was only the beginning. On this day, extremely terrifying light suddenly erupted in the eastern region of the Tai Chu continent. It was as if a series of extreme explosions were taking place. Near the Tai Chu continent's White Nectar Sea, the earth was trembling violently as terrifying energy erupted forth. It was as if a primordial ferocious beast were roaring again and again, threatening to completely shatter the earth and shatter it. This gave the kingdom of the 9 States United Army quite a fright. All of them were on their highest alert and prepared for battle. However, this situation only lasted for 2 hours before it faded away. The heavenly human tribe didn't attack, and the paramount heavenly gods didn't pounce toward him. Everything returned to normal. Only the allied army looked at each other in bewilderment. They had no idea what was going on. Light, the ocean is not my territory. Do you know what's going on? The heavenly earth god's voice suddenly sounded. The heavenly light goddess spoke in a dejected voice. I've already used my light techniques to deduce over 10,000 times. Although it's very coincidental, I didn't miss anything. Lan Xiaoni really was putting up a desperate struggle. The heavenly sea god really was trying to tamper with her memories, and Lin's divination techniques were simply too powerful, which was why the heavenly sea god was discovered. Furthermore, the heavenly sea god fought Lin to the death in the end. For the heavenly sea god, it has also encountered an extremely dangerous and frustrating situation. The heavenly sea god's injuries have really worsened. Even though paramount heavenly gods weren't omnipotent and omniscient, they were still able to gather a lot of information if they focused their power on a particular event. The heavenly earth god heaved a forlorn sigh upon hearing this. Why are we so unlucky? Could it be that the heavenly Tao is robbing us of our fortune? We forcefully invaded the Tai Chu continent to exterminate all living beings, which is an act of defiance of the heavens. It's not impossible that the heavenly Tao is robbing us of our fortune. The heavenly light goddess heaved a forlorn sigh. Then what do we do now? The heavenly earth god was also quite dejected. He had initially planned to use the heavenly human tribe army of 1 billion to crush the humans into despair. But now he was the one who had tasted despair. And Lin, that Ned and Lin. The heavenly earth god felt like his face was burning with embarrassment. Even his calm and tranquil heart was beginning to waver from Lin's actions. We still have one more trump card, but if we use it now, our chances of success won't be as high as before. However, we have no choice but to make this choice. The heavenly light goddess voice was tinged with a hint of exasperation and concern. The heavenly earth god felt a little more confident at the mention of this trump card. Let's find a good day to launch the final battle. At the center of the White Nectar Sea, at the pinnacle of the heavenly divine tree, the peerlessly beautiful heavenly life goddess and the heavenly heaven god stood on a tree branch in silence. They had also heard the news from the heavenly sea god, and their emotions were extremely complex. You, the heavenly life goddess, lips parted slightly. Have you figured anything out? Everything the heavenly sea god said is true. Furthermore, even in the final moments, and Lin was still trying to kill the heavenly sea god with everything he had. The heavenly heaven god's deductions were more in-depth than the heavenly light goddesses, but the conclusion he had reached was still the same. This is going to be quite troublesome. The heavenly life goddess brows furrowed slightly. Not only is this a heavy blow to light and earth, but it's also going to have a very heavy impact on our plan. We're reaping what we sow, right? The heavenly heaven god spoke in an indifferent voice. A wry smile appeared on the heavenly life goddess face. We shouldn't have given that heavenly poison god to Enlin. That's right, it was exactly because they had given Enlin the heavenly poison god that Enlin had become so powerful. If Enlin's divine body hadn't reached the phenomenal success stage, how would it have been able to destroy all of the 1 billion heavenly human eggs? Just as all of the paramount heavenly gods were feeling extremely distressed, the immortal land above water was in an uproar. It's giving birth. Demon Lord Lingu is giving birth. My God, he's screaming so loudly. Hang in there. Hang in there. All of the West Sea United Army members stared at Demon Lord Ling Gu with fervent expressions, and some of them were even yelling at the top of their lungs. Ah! The true demon's massive body, over 100,000 feet in size, thrashed about in the ocean, and its bulging stomach grew larger and larger, as if something were about to come out. All of the West Sea Alliance members knew that not only had Enlin saved their Alliance leader Lon, but he had also foiled the paramount heavenly god's earth-shattering plan, so they were all extremely excited. They naturally knew that Demon Lord Ling Gu had swallowed all of the 1 billion eggs. 1 billion eggs. Each egg was as tall as a person. What kind of concept would it be to swallow 1 billion eggs into one stomach? No one had even tried to swallow that many eggs, let alone such a huge egg. Demon Lord Ling Gu's heroic feat earned him the title of Egg Eater Demon Lord. To be able to eat 1 billion celestial eggs at once, let me ask you, are you afraid? Some of the West Sea Alliance members cheered him on, while others cheered him on. Finally, amid Demon Lord Ling Gu's blood-curdling roar, ah! Boom! A resounding boom erupted. It's broken. It's broken. It's finally out. The Egg-Eater Demon Lord has made a breakthrough. The power of the divine Tao began to spread throughout heaven and earth. Phenomena began to appear. On this day, Demon Lord Ling Gu progressed to the Tao integration pinnacle stage after eating an egg. Chapter 1997. Tens of millions of members of the West Sea Alliance cheered in unison. They were all genuinely happy. Demon Lord Ling Gu's breakthrough from the Tao integration intermediate stage to the Tao integration final stage meant that the West Sea Alliance's top-notch combat prowess had risen to a whole new level. If he continued to cultivate his heaven-crushing techniques, he might even possess the combat prowess of a heavenly disciple candidate. In that case, the West Sea Alliance would be even more secure. And Lin looked at the true demon divine Tao concept scroll in the sky and was not surprised at all. There were a total of 1 billion heavenly human eggs, and the energy contained within them was comparable to the energy of several dozen Tao integration stage super mighty figures. If Demon Lord Ling Gu could completely absorb the essence of these eggs, he would be able to break through to the God of Creation stage as long as he had the aptitude to do so. Of course, most super mighty figures didn't have the aptitude to do so. Not taking into account other things, the Celestial Darch had been the most powerful being in the Kingdom of the Nine States for tens of thousands of years, yet he was still stuck at the Tao integration pinnacle stage for so many years. In terms of accumulated energy, he definitely had enough. He had cultivated to the point where he couldn't improve in any aspect, and he was only lacking a little enlightenment. However, just this little bit of enlightenment was more important than the energy essence of several hundred Tao integration stage super mighty figures. Howl! A domineering roar reverberated throughout heaven and earth. Demon Lord Ling Gu had successfully broken through to the Tao integration final stage, and his aura had skyrocketed to an extremely terrifying level. Furthermore, it was still increasing. He was still absorbing the energy essence of the heavenly human eggs in his stomach, and his body was becoming more and more powerful. Finally, after reaching the pinnacle of the Tao integration pinnacle stage, his bulging stomach finally deflated, and his six-pack reappeared on his body. Ah, so powerful. Is this the feeling of invincibility? Demon Lord Ling Gu could feel that his body had become extremely powerful, and he was no longer afraid of any enemies. He clenched his fists, and demonic power surged within his body. His blood vessels bulged, and a red glow flickered within them. It was as if they were undergoing a fusion reaction as his arms expanded. A single punch from him was enough to unleash a destructive power that was far greater than that of a hydrogen bomb. Demon Lord Ling Gu could feel the invincible power in his body, and he felt that he could step on the heavens and look down on everyone. He looked at Enlin not far away and said with a burning gaze, "Sect leader Enlin, give me a punch. I want to test my strength." The white-robed man who he once worshipped and could only look up to from afar, the demon lord now felt that he had the right to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. And Lin blinked. All right, although he did not understand such an unreasonable request, he would naturally satisfy it. And Lin punched out. Demon Venerable Ling Gu laughed heartily as he exchanged a punch with Enlin. Rumble. The collision of the two fists caused the world to fall silent. Ah! A blood-curdling scream was heard. Demon Venerable Ling Gu's massive body was blasted several hundred kilometers away by the terrifying power, and he turned into a black in front of everyone's eyes. The power of the 5 elements even tore his arm apart violently, and Lin had purposely held back, so it didn't spread to his entire body. All of the living beings present were at a loss for words at the sight of Demon Venerable Ling Gu being insta-killed. Lan Xiaoni crossed her arms over her chest with a resigned expression on her face. This B***starred is getting cocky. It asked Big Boss and Lin to bash it. It's a classic example of someone who doesn't know how to become more powerful. All of the West Sea Alliance members knew that Demon Venerable Ling Gu was extremely powerful, but Enlin's punch once again made them feel the invincibility of their backer. They were extremely astonished, but they were also extremely excited. Demon Venerable Ling Gu was the most astonished of all. After absorbing so much energy essence from the heavenly human egg, he was already feeling invincible. However, Enlin's punch had forced him back to his egg form. That's right, he felt like he was a heavenly human egg in the face of Enlin. A heavenly human egg that could be roasted and eaten by anyone. Demon Venerable Ling Gu's massive body crashed into the ocean, creating a massive tsunami. He looked up into the sky as he clutched his bloody, severed arm, and he began to wonder if his evolution was fake. Just how powerful was sect leader Enlin? As expected of the light that he had been pursuing for his entire life, Demon Venerable Ling Gu quickly came to a realization. He crawled up from the ground and expressed his admiration and gratitude toward Enlin once again. If it weren't for Enlin, he wouldn't have been able to obtain such a massive opportunity and progress to the Tao integration pinnacle stage. It was said that if one followed a being blessed with great fortune, they would also become blessed with great fortune. This was indeed true. Demon Venerable Ling Gu became even more determined to follow Enlin. Of course, the most important thing right now was to protect the West Sea. Enlin would only take him along if he did his best to protect the West Sea. At this moment, at the eastern heavenly gate, a male heavenly god with a divine symbol saber on his back rubbed his palms together as he spoke to the sea of light before him. Heavenly Light Goddess, the 10 million strong heavenly human tribe army has already been assembled. When are we going to start our suicidal attack? As soon as his voice fell, the few Empyrean gods noticed that the sea of light in front of them had inexplicably trembled. Cancel the plan. The Heavenly Light Goddess's cold voice traveled over. Hey. Why? A female heavenly god with a huge pink fan in her hand widened her eyes in confusion. Didn't you say that the 3 paramount heavenly gods were going to join forces and launch an earth-shattering plan? Didn't you say that there would be a massive army that would stun the entire world? That's right, that's right. The other heavenly gods also chimed in as they looked toward the sea of light with curiosity. The flowing sea of light faltered again. Then it began to tremble slightly. How was she supposed to explain this? Her earth-shattering plan had been foiled? No, she couldn't tell anyone. If she told anyone, wouldn't that mean that the three paramount heavenly gods would be slapped in the face? We'll discuss this later. The heavenly light goddess remained silent. However, the heavenly light goddess couldn't do whatever she wanted in this world. She didn't want to tell anyone, as she didn't want the three paramount heavenly gods to be slapped in the face. However, someone else would, and Lin had the West Sea Alliance spread the news of his exploits in a low-key manner. He even sent a series of high-definition photographic images taken by the True Element Martial Lord to various newspapers and magazines. This included information about the egg-eating demon Lord's breakthrough due to eating an egg. Thus, and Lin's name dominated the headlines again. Invincible God of War, sect leader in Lin, foils the paramount heavenly god's earth-shattering plot. The world-destroying threat has been snuffed out in the cradle. The human god of war has astonished the world and annihilated 1 billion enemies with the flick of a finger. He defeated the heavenly sea god with a single punch. He stomped the earth with 1 foot and grasped the light in his hand. Demon Lord Linggu and sect leader in Lin went on a secret trip. Why is he behaving like a pregnant woman after 1 day? Honestly speaking, how many paramount heavenly gods can Enlil stand against with his current strength? One earth-shattering headline after another spread throughout the entire Tai Chu continent. Countless living beings were once again shocked and ecstatic. It seemed like no one in this world could stop the footsteps of this human god of war. That's right, not only was Enlil the war god of the celestial court, but he was also revered as the war god of the entire human race. Wherever he went, there would be a bunch of fanboys and girls staring at him with scorching eyes. And Lin actually wanted to keep a low profile, but his power didn't allow him to do so. He had no choice but to reduce the number of times he went out. After all, it was quite unpleasant to be pounced on by a bunch of girls who had lost all sense of reason. A boy like him had to be very careful when he went out. After doing all this, and Lin hurried back to Yutong City. Chapter 1998. Lan Xiaoni personally bade farewell to Enlil. She had initially wanted to spend a few more days with Enlil. After all, this was a rare opportunity, but Enlil told her that there was someone waiting for him in that city, and he had to go back as soon as possible. The mermaid princess pouted with a hint of displeasure and disappointment in her heart. Was she not pretty enough? Or was the seafood she cooked not good enough? Why was he so eager to go back? She was a little unhappy, but she still wrapped her arms around Enlil's arm and told him to come visit the West Sea Alliance again with a smile on her face. After bidding farewell to Enlil, Lan Xiaoni gave herself a pep talk before throwing herself back into the fight against the Heavenly Human Tribe United Army. She still had to work hard. On the eastern front of the Kingdom of the Nine States, at Chenchi City, the Celestial Arch was actually quite perplexed by the Heavenly Human Tribe United Army's frenzied attack a few days ago. They had won a few major victories, but he wasn't elated at all. Instead, his heart was filled with unease and confusion. Finally, when Enlil incinerated 1 billion heavenly human eggs, the truth was revealed to be Dubai. So this was what the paramount heavenly gods were plotting. They were going to make the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army lower their guard first, and when their numbers dwindled further, the Heavenly Human Tribe United Army of 1 billion would appear. If this were to happen, it would be an extremely depressing situation. At the very least, it would be a very heavy blow to the morale of the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army. However, this earth-shattering plot had been foiled by Enlil, and the Heavenly Human Tribe United Army on the Eastern Front with a real F*** curse. The Heavenly Human Tribe United Army on the Eastern Front was gone, and they only had 10 million soldiers left. but they had to fight the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army, which consisted of 50 to 60 million soldiers. The headlines of the Tai Chu continent didn't mention this, but all of the mighty figures were well aware of how important this was. It could be said that Enlin had pulled the Tai Chu continent back from the brink of disaster again. He was having a good time in Yutong City just a few days ago, but in the blink of an eye he was able to foil a paramount heavenly god scheme and burn 1 billion heavenly human eggs. Is this Enlin a god? Emperor Ziwei's expression was filled with shock. Ha ha ha. Sect leader Enlin really is a man who can't be judged by normal standards. The celestial arch couldn't help but burst into laughter. He makes the paramount heavenly gods suffer every single time. These heavenly gods must hate him to death, right? Emperor Changsheng stroked his beard and heaved a forlorn sigh. Just the thought of being hated by more than 3 paramount heavenly gods makes me feel like my legs are about to give out from under me. Only sect leader Enlin has the right to be hated by so many powerful beings. Although he said that, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. The more the enemy hated and displeased them, the happier they would be. There was nothing more delightful than building one's happiness on the pain and suffering of one's enemies. The 4 of them were the happiest of all. They were already bragging about Master Enlin's invincibility and greatness throughout the entire Eastern Front. In particular, Xiao Tu had peed in the direction of the Eastern Front and used his urine to carve out a line in the ground. He had also declared that no matter how many heavenly human tribe united army soldiers crossed this line, he would be able to take on all of them on his own. He wouldn't back down even against heavenly gods. That's right, Xiao Tu was alive again. He was the one who mocked and ridiculed his enemies the most among the Kingdom of the Nine States United Army. He had even placed a few million turtle eggs in front of the line and called them all heavenly human eggs. He then laughed heartily in the eastern sky while feasting on the eggs. The celestial arch and the others were all shocked to see this, and they all respected Xiao Tu for being a brave warrior. Just as Xiao Tu was about to go berserk, Enlin returned to Yutong City. He was greeted by Su Xiaolan. A smile immediately appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Who would have thought that you would do so many earth-shattering things on your trip to the West Sea? That was a piece of cake. Enlin made his way over to Su Xiaolan and gave her a big hug. Su Xiaolan was a little embarrassed. She was still quite frail and old, and she was a little unaccustomed to being hugged so passionately by Enlin. Enlin didn't care about that. He could sense her aura, and her body temperature was very good. Enlin, I made a few new dishes for you. Do you want to try them? Xiaolan's eyes crinkled into a smile as she asked in a gentle voice. Sure. Enlin nodded with a smile before snatching Su Xiaolan's mask away at lightning speed. What are you doing, Enlin? Give me back my mask. I don't want you to see me like this. Su Xiaolan immediately panicked, and she tried to snatch the mask back. But I want to see you like this. But this disgusting mask is blocking my view. Enlin immediately ran away as he spoke to Su Xiaolan. What's so good about my old and decrepit appearance? Su Xiaolan asked. Your smile. Enlin turned to look into Su Xiaolan's eyes with a serious expression. He was only able to see Su Xiaolan's smile through the 2 holes in the mask, and for some reason he was very displeased by this. Su Xiaolan's footsteps faltered, and tears welled up in her eyes. Enlin was quite sympathetic toward her, and he hurriedly made his way over to her. All right. I'll give you back your mask. Don't be angry. Su Xiaolan took the mask, but she didn't do anything else. Enlin blinked and looked at Su Xiaolan in confusion. Really? You really don't mind if I don't wear the mask? Su Xiaolan asked softly with her head lowered. Enlin faltered slightly as he looked at the woman before him. He looked into her eyes, her wrinkled nose, and her wrinkled mouth before a smile appeared on his face. Of course I don't mind. I can see you more clearly without the mask on. That's even better. The mask in Su Xiaolan's hand suddenly burst into flames. She held the burning mask in her hand, but she raised her head, and a smile bloomed on her face, outlining the wrinkles on her face. Then, in the future, I won't wear a mask anymore. Su Xiaolan had thought things through. If the person she cared about the most didn't mind her appearance, then there was no point in her wearing the mask. She wouldn't be able to see what she looked like anyway, and Lin was extremely elated, and he gave Su Xiaolan a big hug before leading her to the dining table. Come on, Su Xiaolan, let's taste your new dish. The two of them began to eat happily on the western border of the Tai Chu continent, in the Sky Realm. The heavenly sea god looked at the newspaper with a constipated expression, and he almost vomited blood as he read the headlines. What kind of news was this? What kind of commentary was this? Were these people all stupid C***NTS? And Lin defeated the heavenly sea god with a single punch. The heavenly sea god, or the weakest paramount heavenly god. And this was the worst of all. The heavenly sea god was the last to appear, and it was suspected that the heavenly Tao was having a hard time giving birth, which was why he was so weak. These heartless media outlets. Do they even have a conscience? I'm going to kill them all in the next battle. That's right, kill them all. The heavenly sea god's enraged roar reverberated throughout the western heavenly gate. Chapter 1999. The news of Enlin destroying the 1 billion heavenly human eggs was still brewing. The impact it caused was extremely far-reaching. It could be said that it had truly changed the direction of the battle. Some tribes were celebrating, while some of the subordinate tribes of the heavenly human tribe united army were grief-stricken. Their morale had plummeted to an all-time low, and even their faith was wavering. All of the paramount figures of the Tai Chu continent were also paying close attention to this event. A faint smile appeared on Nua's face as she quickly browsed through the latest news reports. White Spirit Snake was jumping with joy beside her, while Black Spirit Snake's eyes widened with incredulity. Within the land of eternal light. Do you see that? He's your third heavenly disciple. He has already done something earth-shattering and foiled the enemy's plan. Now it's our turn. Cyril of the Heaven-Crushing sect announced in a clear voice, I hereby announce the official commencement of the Heaven-Crushing plan. Within the Heaven-Crushing glazed palace, all of the powerful beings raised their hands high into the air with scorching battle intent in their eyes. Heaven-Crushing! 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 A series of cries pierced through the clouds and into the heavens. There were several hundred fanatical members of the Heaven-Crushing sect, all of whom were returned to void stage mighty figures at the very least. The battling Buddha, Yun Menjing, and Michael, the 3 heavenly disciple candidates, also appeared. The 4th heavenly disciple, the ancient Dragon Empress, was also present. All of the most powerful beings of the Heaven-Crushing sect were present, and they were about to welcome a grand moment. Cyril wore a crimson Taoist robe, and he slowly made his way toward the vortex at the center of the palace with an unprecedentedly solemn expression as he tossed a black ball into the vortex. The handsome Chin Chin also chanted a spell and tossed the white ball in his hand into the vortex. The black ball and the white ball disappeared into the chaotic vortex at the same time. Everything fell silent. All of the powerful beings looked on at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, not daring to say anything. Soon, changes began to take place. Black, veined patterns began to appear on the ground around the heaven-crushing, glazed palace, intertwining with one another before extending into the distance to form a complex pattern. The black patterns continued to extend, mysterious and boundless. The area it covered soon covered the entire Purple Star ruins, and it didn't stop there. Instead, it continued to spread outward, reaching the kingdom of the 9 states, the opposite shore realm, the East Sea, the southern Heavenly Wing Nation, the North Song Mountain realm, and even the White Nectar Sea. In the end, it continued eastward until it reached the West Sea. Black, veined patterns appeared over the entire Tai Chu continent, Billions of living beings were astonished. They couldn't imagine what it was. If this thing was hostile toward them, would it instantly massacre the entire Tai-Chu continent? The most panicked of all were the heavenly human tribe living beings. A heaven pioneer, sage, great general unleashed a ferocious slap at the black vein patterns, reducing the ground within a radius of over 50 kilometers to dust. Then he was shocked to find that the black lines had already sunk deep into the ground. Even though the ground had sunk a few hundred meters into the ground, the lines inside were still exactly the same, without any change. What is this thing? The heavenly human tribe great general's eyes widened in horror, and he immediately reported this matter to the heavenly god. The heavenly gods didn't say anything, but the silence created an oppressive atmosphere. At this moment, the aura of a formation began to spread throughout the entire continent. That's right, this was a formation that had never been seen before, a formation that enshrouded the entire Tai-Chu continent. The name of this formation was Heaven Crushing Formation. The name of this formation represented everything. This was the formation used by the Heaven Crushing sect to crush the heavens. The setting sun descended upon the land that was covered in vein patterns, painting the entire sky with a golden line. Below the golden line was a vast and boundless land, while above the golden line were stars that had just begun to appear in the night sky. The earth was connected to the heavens, and yin and yang were separated by a single line. At a certain special moment, the boundary between reality and illusion seemed to blur, as did the entire space and time. This was a peculiar cycle of reincarnation between heaven and earth. During this unique cycle, the black formation on the earth seemed to be extending into the heavens. Boom, boom, boom. Black energy erupted from the 999 nodes of the formation at the same time into the heavens. At the same time, a pillar of white light with a diameter of over 10,000 meters suddenly shot down from the ceiling of the heaven-crushing glazed palace. The extremely rich, heaven-crushing true intent seemed to be threatening to pulverize the entire heavens. All the heaven-crushing sect members of the heaven-crushing glazed palace looked up at the countless black cracks in the sky with indescribable excitement on their faces. The heaven-crushing sect plan had officially begun. Next, it was time for them to create miracles. A smile appeared on Cyril's face as he looked at all of the powerful beings present. We're about to face the ferocious attacks of the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods. Are you all willing to join me in battle to slay the heavenly human tribe and destroy this wrong heavenly Tao? I'm willing. Forward forever. Never regret it. All the heaven-crushing sect members spoke with raging battle intent. The heaven-crushing sect's actions had alerted countless living beings on the Tai-Chu continent. Although they did not understand formations, the true meaning of I want to defy the heavens, I want to break the heavens, I want to destroy the heavens, I want to destroy the heavens, was something that even a 3-year-old child could feel. That's right, the entire Tai-Chu continent knew that the heaven-crushing sect was about to do something big. All of the powerful beings turned their eyes toward what had once been the most glorious land of civilization on the Tai-Chu continent, which was now a barren wasteland. This was the headquarters of the heaven-crushing sect. Is Cyril finally going to make a move? I'm really worried about him. On the contrary, I quite like Chun-Chin. An old man with a benevolent face and a long white beard shook his head and sighed. He had a sage-like demeanor as he stroked his beard. Master, why do I feel like Lin is more reliable? Beside the old man, a fat man with a body like a ball interrupted with a simple and honest voice. As he spoke, he didn't forget to stuff pills into his mouth, making crunching sounds like he was chewing on jelly beans. And Lin is indeed more suitable, but he has to be willing. Besides, Lin has many choices, so he doesn't have to crush the heavens. The elderly man looked toward the west with a meaningful expression. Oh, the fat man nodded. Crunch, crunch, crunch! The elderly man looked up at the white clouds in the sky. He was originally a mighty man, but the more he listened to the crunching sounds, the more annoyed he became. "All right, stop eating." The elderly man scolded angrily. The fat man faltered. "Master, what's wrong?" The elderly man pointed at the fat man with trembling hands. "Look at you now, what have you become? Every time I take you out, my image will plummet. Those powerful beings will laugh at me and ask why the heavenly venerate's disciple has turned into a ball. How am I supposed to answer that? You've thrown my old face away. I don't expect you to be extraordinarily handsome or handsome, but at the very least, you have to be a human, right? She, be a human." The fat man's mouth gaped open as if he had been dealt a heavy blow. That's right, this fat man was Shi. An elderly man before him was the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue couldn't help but shake his head at the sight of his disciple's dumbstruck expression. He didn't dare to retort, but he still stubbornly stuffed pills into his mouth. Forget it. Let's go, I'll take you to Niwa. This world is about to change." With a wave of the old man's sleeve, the two of them disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Chapter 2000. Within Yutong City, and Lin could tell that something big was about to happen when he saw the black veined patterns on the ground. This must be the work of the heaven-crushing sect. Su Xiaolan could sense extremely powerful heaven-crushing true intent from within the spell formation, and her expression shifted slightly. What are they trying to do? And Lin's senses were even more direct. He turned toward the east, where the sun was slowly setting. The heaven-crushing sect is about to truly crush the heavens. My God, so soon! Su Xiaolan was given a fright. She knew that the heaven-crushing sect was about to do something big, but she didn't think that they would choose this time to crush the heavens. What was he doing? Why now? Perhaps they think that this is the time when the paramount heavenly gods are at their weakest? Perhaps that's why they decided to strike first? And Lin speculated with a perplexed expression. Things were developing far too quickly, and even he was a little perplexed. The only information he had received was that the battling Buddha and the other heaven-crushing sect higher-ups were going to the land of eternal light to witness an important event. Most likely, this was what they were going to witness. Sigh, if only I were the heavenly disciple of the heaven-crushing sect, I wouldn't be as perplexed as I am now. And Lin sighed with resignation. All of a sudden, he recalled what the heavenly sea god had once told him. Within the room of life, an extremely beautiful woman sat lazily on a chair made of vines. She wore a colorful dress that accentuated her flawless body. She was fiddling with a glossy expression on her face as she heaved a forlorn sigh. Sigh. Ambition and desire are the root causes of world destruction. An elderly man with white hair and a white beard chuckled. Cyril's heaven-crushing mission took place 3 years earlier than anticipated. It's clear that Lin's actions have changed the direction of the Tai-Chu continent, thereby making Cyril feel like this is a more suitable time to crush the heavens. I don't mind if someone becomes the heavenly Tao, but even if Cyril were to crush the heavens now, his chances of success would be far too low. Heaven returns to heaven. Living beings return to living beings. The woman said in a low voice, "We can atone for our sins and make up for our mistakes, but we definitely can't harm them and even think about killing them and replacing them. This is a very dangerous path." As she spoke, the woman turned to look at the old man and said seriously, "Old Lord Taishang, I need your help. Make your move. We don't have much time left." The old man before him was one of the 3 pure ones, the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue. The woman he was talking to was none other than the paramount god of the demon folk, Mother Niwa. She stood silently off to the side, holding his breath and not daring to interject. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue could actually stay out of this. However, he couldn't bear to see the human race perish. He stroked his beard and sighed softly. "Niwa, your kindness to the human race. I just don't want to see living beings plunged into misery and suffering." Before he could finish, Nviwa interrupted and said firmly, "You don't have to thank me. Whether you help me or not, I will continue to nourish the sky. Even if I have to pay any price, I will complete this task. White Spirit Snake clenched her fists as tears welled up in her eyes. Your Majesty! The Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue fell into a dilemma. He really wanted to save the human race, but he would have to bear an extremely heavy risk if he were to fall into this trap. Would a being who had already escaped from this world be willing to return to the mortal realm for the sake of the human race? Most gods of creation wouldn't do that. Among the three pure ones, Pengu had already transcended beyond this world and no longer cared about the affairs of the mortal realm. The Heavenly Lord of Numinous Treasure also had a carefree personality, so he wouldn't put himself in danger for the sake of the human race on the Tai Chu continent. The only one who still cared about the human race was the Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue. So, would the Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue be willing to risk his life to fight for the human race? It was time for him to make a decision. Just as the atmosphere was becoming more and more solemn, Nua's voice transmission talisman suddenly lit up. She tapped on it with a slender finger, upon which a familiar voice sounded. Your Majesty, Nua, how have you been? And Lin's friendly voice sounded from the other end. Nua, whose face had been filled with worry, revealed a smile when she heard the voice of the person who had arrived. She said in a gentle voice, I've met with some trouble, but it's not a big problem. Why have you suddenly contacted me? Is there something I can help you with? Nua knew that Lin wouldn't come to her for no reason. He definitely had something to ask of her. However, she wasn't disgusted by this human brat. Instead, she was becoming more and more interested in him. I'm not here to ask for your help today. And Lin was a little awkward. Then why are you here? Nua asked curiously. I want to join the Heaven Mending Sect. What do I have to do? And Lin was a little uneasy. Goddess Nvaiwa suddenly stood up, her beautiful eyes filled with extraordinary splendor, and her tone fluctuated with her emotions. Really? You're not joking? I wouldn't dare to joke with you. When are you free? I'll pay you a visit and talk to you in detail. And Lin smiled. No need. I'll do it myself. Nua smiled. How can I do that? And Lin was sitting on a stone chair in the pavilion with a dumbfounded expression. At this moment, a colorful circular spatial hole suddenly appeared in the air above the pavilion. A pair of long, bare legs emerged from the spatial hole. Her jade-like feet shimmered under the starry night sky. She was dressed in a rainbow-colored immortal robe that fluttered elegantly in the wind. Her breathtakingly beautiful and natural face had a faint smile on it. And Lin, you're not trying to fool me, are you? Do you really want to join the Heaven Mending Sect? Her voice was like a flowing spring, refreshing to the heart. And Lin's mouth gaped open in shock at the scenes unfolding before his eyes. Holy F***CK. She's already here? I haven't even hung up the voice transmission talisman and you're already here? The woman in the colorful dress before him was none other than the paramount goddess, Her Majesty Nua. Why would I fool you, Your Majesty Nua? And Lin hurriedly rose to his feet and extended a hand. Please sit here. I was in a hurry, so I didn't have time to set up a banquet. Please forgive me. Nua nodded with a comforting smile on her face before making her way over to Enlin. She sat down beside Enlin and looked at him with a scorching light in her eyes. There just so happened to be an express passageway to Yutong City from where I was, so I came here. I'm very happy that you chose the Heaven Mending Sect. This is the fortune of the entire continent. Nua's eyes were even more dazzling than the most beautiful stars in the sky as she looked at Enlin. Enlin, I was right about you. Enlin scratched his head guiltily with a bashful smile on his face. He had initially wanted to take advantage of her, but Nua was being a little too enthusiastic, and this made him feel quite guilty. What should he do next? Chapter 2001. Within the Cabin of Life. The Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue's lips twitched as he looked at the slowly shrinking spatial hole. Black Spirit Snake and White Spirit Snake were both at a loss for words. She was the first to speak up. My God, Her Majesty Nuwa was begging Master to join the heaven-mending sect just a minute ago. But in the next minute, she ditched Master for a secret meeting with Enlin for the sake of Enlin. The heavenly lord of Tao and Virtue's hand shuddered as he repressed the urge to throw up a mouthful of blood as he glowered at the chubby man beside him. It wouldn't have been so awkward if no one had brought this up. Was this disciple trying to stab Master in the back? A secret meeting with Enlin? Watch your mouth. Black Spirit Snake immediately flared up as she pulled out a shiny golden sword and placed it against Ishi's neck. Ishi's legs gave out from under him, and he immediately reorganized his words. I was wrong. Her Majesty Nuwa is having a secret meeting with sect leader Enlin to discuss mending the heavens. Black Spirit Snake raised her chin and harumphed coldly before sheathing her sword. Is Senior Enlin really going to join us? That's great. White Spirit Snake clasped her hands over her beautiful face with anticipation in her eyes. Black Spirit Snake glared at her useless little sister with a resigned expression. She really didn't know what to say. Why was White Spirit Snake so respectful and obedient to Enlin? It didn't make sense. Was Enlin really that charismatic? Black Spirit Snake couldn't help but scoff with disdain as she recalled his sly smile. She couldn't appreciate such a despicable man. Yutong City. Stars twinkled in the night sky. The atmosphere in the courtyard was tranquil. Her Majesty Nuwa, please have some tea. Su Xiaolan brewed tea for Nuwa. Nuwa faltered slightly at the sight of Su Xiaolan's elderly features before a dazzling light flashed through her eyes. Divine Phoenix Maiden, I almost couldn't recognize you. So your life force is undergoing some kind of transformation, and Lin was delighted. Lady Nuwa, could it be that you know why Su Xiaolan is like this? Su Xiaolan also turned to look at Nuwa with curiosity in her eyes. Nuwa shook her head upon hearing this. I don't know what the Divine Phoenix Maiden will become in the end. I only know that her life is undergoing some kind of change. As for whether this change is good or bad, I can't say for sure. It seems to be related to her choice. It has something to do with my choice. Su Xiaolan's expression changed again. This time, she was at a loss because she didn't do anything at all. It won't be life-threatening, right? And Lin asked worriedly. No. Nuwa shook her head with certainty, and Lin heaved a light sigh of relief upon hearing this. A faint smile appeared on Nuwa's face. Let's talk about how you joined the Heaven Mending Sect now, right? Why did you suddenly want to join the Heaven Mending Sect? Did you experience something? And Lin's expression also became serious upon hearing this. What had she experienced? He was just trying to get information out of her. I don't really have any ulterior motives. I just want to do something for this world. But I don't know how. I feel like your heaven-mending sect is more gentle than the heaven-crushing sect. So I want to learn more about your heaven-mending sect. And Lin replied. Nuwa nodded with a smile. You're right. Mending the heavens is the best way to save the entire Tai Chu continent, and there are almost no repercussions. And Lin turned to the woman before him with a serious expression. Then, what are your chances of success? What's the specific plan? That's too personal a question. Nuwa looked up into the sky with an exquisite smile on her face. Beware of eavesdropping. I'll take you to the mystic realm after you sign the contract and join the Heaven Mending Sect. I'll tell you the details then, Nuwa replied with a smile. Contract? What contract? And Lin's expression shifted slightly. The Heaven Mending Contract. When the time comes, you'll possess different powers as well as many special privileges. Nuwa explained, and Lin didn't think that this would happen. He hesitated momentarily before asking, There's one more question that I don't know if I should ask. A warm smile appeared on Nuwa's face. We're all on the same side. Go ahead. And Lin was a little uneasy. If I join the Heaven Mending sect and sign the Heaven Mending contract, can I still join the Heaven Crushing sect? Nuwa, Su Xiaolan. Everyone suddenly fell silent. I don't think you should say that. The corners of Nuwa's mouth twitched imperceptibly. She took a deep breath and said, You join my Heaven Mending sect, yet you're still thinking about Heaven Crushing. Most importantly, you even said it in front of me. Honesty is a virtue. I don't want to hide anything from you. And Lin replied with an honest expression. But you're feeding sh*t to my face, Nuwa said in an indifferent voice. Gasp, and Lin and Su Xiaolan both took a deep breath in unison. These words came out of Nuwa's mouth. They knew that Nuwa really was angry. I'm sorry. I was just curious about what the Heaven Crushing sect would do. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll emerge victorious. I'm only doing this for the sake of the Heaven Mending sect. And Lin immediately began to struggle for survival. The Heaven Crushing sect and the Heaven Mending sect appear to be at loggerheads with one another, but the conflict between the two isn't as intense as you think it is, Nuwa said in a calm voice. Why is that? And Lin really didn't understand this time. In the process of patching up the sky and destroying the sky, no matter which stage they reach, it will not affect the progress of the other sect. The key for both sides is the final step. If the Heaven Mending sect completes the final step and completes the heavenly Tao, then the Heaven Crushing sect won't be able to crush the heavens no matter what they do. If the Heaven Crushing sect completes the final step and completely destroys the heavenly Tao, then the Heaven Mending sect won't be able to mend the heavens either. And Lin was enlightened. So you're saying that you're both competing in terms of progress? We're also competing in terms of success rate. If you fail at the final step, then you'll have to give the opportunity to the other party, Nuwa replied. And Lin stroked his chin and exclaimed in amazement, Not only are you two not antagonistic toward one another, but you two can also complement one another. If one sect can't make it, the other sect can take its place. That's right, this is a good thing for the Tai Chu continent, which is why I'm not targeting the Heaven Crushing sect. Of course, this doesn't mean that I don't dislike them, Nuwa said in a slow voice. And Lin knew that this was a clash of ideals, so he couldn't say anything more. And Lin, do you want to join the Heaven Mending sect or not? Nuwa asked again. If you join the Heaven Mending sect, then sign a contract to mend the heavens. I won't stop you from interacting with members of the Heaven Crushing sect, as long as I don't see you. This could be said to be a super big concession. And Lin, are you willing? Nuwa asked, and Lin nodded with excitement. I'm willing. Chapter 2002. And Lin had already thought things through. He decided to join the sect first. In any case, no one dared to do anything to him now, so the most important thing right now was to obtain some information. The Heaven Mending sect welcomes you to join. Nuwa extended a hand with a smile, and Lin shook Nuwa's hand. This was the first time he had shaken Nuwa's hand, and the soft, jade-like sensation was very special to him. Nuwa turned to Lin with a smile akin to that of a big sister next door. And Lin was just about to retract his hand when he discovered that his hand was being held tightly by the woman's hand. She wasn't willing to let go, and she even took the opportunity to caress his hand carefully, as if she was enjoying herself. And Lin was astonished. Was he being molested by Nuwa? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, Nuwa had already withdrawn her hand and turned to the woman beside her with a nonchalant smile. Divine Phoenix Maiden, and Lin has already joined the Heaven Mending sect. Are you interested? Do you want to go with him? That way, you'll be able to look after him. Not only did Nuwa want Lin, but she was also interested in Su Xiaolan. A calm smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she shook her head. There's no need for that. I'll beat up whoever Lin wants me to, and I'll do my best to help him with whatever he wants. She had already figured out from Lin's previous words and reactions what Lin's true objective for joining the Heaven Mending sect was. It wouldn't be a good idea for her to tag along. That's right, one person was enough. It would be far too rude for both of them to do as they pleased in the heaven-mending sect. And Lin silently gave Su Xiaolan a look of approval. It looked like she really did understand him. All right. Nuwa was slightly dejected before a smile appeared on her face. Then, and Lin, let's go sign the heaven-mending contract now. After that, I'll tell you all of the core secrets of the heaven-mending sect. And Lin's heart jolted with shock. So soon? Divine Phoenix Maiden, you can wait here for a while. Nuwa waved her hand, and the colorful spatial hole appeared in front of her again. And Lin, come with me. With that, Nuwa took the lead and stepped into the portal, and Lin hurriedly followed. After entering the space gate, an intense feeling of spatial vertigo surged throughout his body, and Lin couldn't help but jump in fright. At his level, he could actually feel spatial vertigo. This proved that the energy density of spatial travel was extremely high, and the place he went to was very likely a very high-level place. His vision changed rapidly. Soon, a gentle white light shone in front of him, and Lin saw countless stars. They formed rivers, star vortices, and all kinds of star diagrams. His gaze pierced through the endless starry sky, and he saw a continent shining brightly in the middle of the star field, as if it was at the center of the infinite stars. His field of vision began to zoom in. He finally saw the continent clearly. It was none other than the Tai Chu continent that he lived in. This was a world with an orbicular heaven and a rectangular earth. There was a sinister hole in the sky of this world, from which countless inky black cracks were spreading in all directions. A white light soared into the sky from the ground before shooting into the sinister hole, releasing viscous energy as if it were trying to fill up the hole. Not far away from the white light, there was an extremely sharp black and white spear. Its tip pointed toward the sky, and it was as if it were trying to pierce through the entire world. Countless black, veined patterns emanated from its tail, which extended over the entire Tai Chu continent. Furthermore, they were curving upward, forming a massive black formation that was constantly gathering the aura of the earth and the power of the earth, as if it were trying to destroy the entire Tai Chu continent. Aside from the most eye-catching black and white spear, there were also 999 smaller spears pointing toward various points in the sky, all of which were also accumulating power. It was easy to imagine just how earth-shattering these spears would be once they were unleashed, and Lin instantly understood many things upon seeing this. This is my projection of the current state of the Tai Chu continent. From here, you can experience the current state of the Tai Chu continent in a more realistic manner, Nuwa explained. And Lin nodded with excitement. This was the first time he had been able to observe the current state of the Tai Chu continent so directly. It had to be said that the current state of the Tai Chu continent was very peculiar. There was a doctor who wanted to save it, and there was an assassin who wanted to kill it. Both of them had brought out their tools, but they were all doing their own things without interfering with one another. If the Tai Chu continent had a mind of its own, it would definitely be very panicked right now. As you can see, our goal is to mend the hole in the sky. Nuwa pointed toward the sinister hole with her jade-like index finger. As for the heaven-crushing sect, they want to deal a lethal blow to the hole in the sky in order to destroy the entire heavenly Tao. Nuwa continued. After that, they want to destroy the heavenly Tao themselves. This is a very crazy idea, and the future is unpredictable. One misstep could lead to destruction. And Lin knew that Nuwa wasn't bluffing. She was telling the truth. If a living being were to become the paramount heavenly Tao, how is this supposed to be fair and just? How was he supposed to ensure that this living being would make the world a better place and not commit atrocities? Unless this living being could erase its own mind and become an emotionless manager, it would be very problematic and unfair no matter how he thought about it. And Lin also had the same thoughts about the heavenly sea god. Even though the heavenly sea god was the heavenly Tao, it was a heavenly Tao with its own consciousness. so it wasn't much different from a normal living being. If it really was allowed to rule over the entire heavenly Tao, who knew what would happen? It could control heaven with a single thought and hell with a single thought. How could Enlin guarantee that the heavenly sea god's thoughts were all about heaven? After thinking about it, he felt like the heaven-mending sect was more reliable. This was why Enlin wanted to learn more about the heaven-mending sect first. Even though the heaven-crushing sect was very good to him, he was more inclined toward the heaven-mending sect. As long as the heaven-mending sect succeeded, all of the heavenly gods and whatnot would be wiped out. Our heaven-mending sect is a sect that follows the will of the heavenly Tao. Everything that we do is protected by the will of the heavenly Tao. Even the paramount heavenly gods wouldn't dare to interfere. This is why they still don't dare to say anything even after the heaven-mending sect has been activated for so long, Nuwa explained in an indifferent voice. And Lin had always thought that the heaven-mending sect was extremely cowardly. However, it sounded like they didn't need to do anything. After all, their enemies wouldn't dare to do anything to them. Our heaven-mending sect's heaven-mending plan is divided into 6 steps. The first step is to locate the source of matter. The second step is to repair the heavenly heart. The third step is to rebuild the structure. The fourth step is to fill in the power of Tao. The fifth step is to perfect the heavenly Tao. And the sixth step is to cleanse all negative emotions. Right now, we are almost done with the rebuilding of the structure. The fourth step is to fill in the power of Tao. Nuwa continued, and Lin had heard the heavenly sea god explain the third step before, and he asked curiously, "What do you mean by filling in the power of Tao?" Nuwa looked at Enlin with a bright smile on her face. The heavenly Tao is divided into the form of matter and the form of power. Power is Tao, and it is the power of the paramount laws. Filling in the power of Tao naturally means to repair the flaws of the heavenly gods. What we have to do is to repair the power of darkness to perfection. Chapter 2003. Repair the power of darkness. And Lin's eyes widened, and he felt as if his heart had skipped a beat. That's right. Nuwa nodded as she looked at Enlin. Light, darkness, sky, earth, ocean, and life. Aside from darkness, all 6 paramount heavenly gods have clones. Aren't you curious as to why the power of darkness hasn't appeared? And Lin's lips twitched as a curious expression appeared on his face. Why hasn't he appeared? A reminiscent expression appeared on Nuwa's beautiful face, because when the purple star destroyed the heavens, the first thing it destroyed was the heavenly Tao of darkness. They poked a hole in the sky, but they actually blew up the heavenly Tao of darkness. And Lin, he felt like he had just heard something incredible. Nuwa continued, "The power of darkness represents the end and absolute nothingness." The Purple Star Civilization's original plan was to first disintegrate the darkness of the heavenly Tao, then capture the essence of darkness before infinitely enhancing the power of darkness. Then they would be able to use the power of darkness to suck the remaining powers of the heavenly Tao into the darkness, thereby reducing everything to nothingness. Only then would they be able to completely destroy the heavenly Tao and create a brand new heavenly Tao that belonged to the human race. However, the laughable thing was that they failed during the second step. The power of darkness was disintegrated, but they couldn't find it. After that, a terrifying backlash from the heavenly Tao descended and wiped out all living beings in the Purple Star Civilization. Nuwa raised a finger. The heavenly Tao is flawed, and the one that's truly lacking is the power of darkness. As long as we can repair the power of darkness, the heaven-mending plan will be mostly complete. And Lin was thinking about this. The heavenly sea god referred to him as the heavenly darkness god, so what Nuwa was implying was that she wanted him to repair himself. The material aspect of the heavenly Tao has already been repaired, and the structure is almost complete. All that's left is the power of the Tao of darkness. The power of the Tao of darkness was originally incomplete, but a portion of it has been repaired by the heavenly Tao recently. Perhaps it will be able to repair itself soon. Nuwa fiddled with the hole on the simulated continent as she spoke, and Lin was shocked. The heavenly Tao can repair itself? That does appear to be the case. A thoughtful expression appeared on Nuwa's face. About 3/5 of it has been repaired. Boom! And Lin's heart trembled, and his breathing quickened. 3/5. And Lin, what's wrong? Nuwa asked curiously. No, nothing. You can continue. And Lin forced a smile. Immediately afterwards, Nuwa told Lin about the things that the Heaven Mending Gang needed to do at the moment, as well as the things that needed to be done in the future. There were many detailed steps and things that needed to be taken note of, including the distribution of the Heaven Mending Gang's members, as well as the division of labor. She explained everything to Lin in great detail. These matters involved the core secrets of the Heaven Mending Gang. Moreover, Lin was somewhat absent-minded as he listened. Nuwa's previous words kept echoing in his mind. After a while, Lin began to establish a sky-mending contract with Nuwa. He swore that he would not divulge the secrets of the Heaven Mending Sect to outsiders, and that he would fight for the cause of the Heaven Mending Sect. After establishing the contract, he began to drip his blood on a strange wheel. The wheel shone brightly, and invisible waves spread out and merged with heaven and earth. Soon, he could sense the heavenly Tao's flaws even more clearly. At the same time, he had an unprecedentedly clear idea of how to mend the heavens. Within Yutong City, 6 hours had already passed since Lin had returned to this place. You're back. Su Xiaolan made her way over to greet him, before asking in a gentle voice, How did it go? Did you reap a lot? And Lin nodded. At the very least, he had learned something very important. It was just that this wasn't a good thing. And Lin sat under a pavilion and silently drank wine under the moon. The bright moon in the sky was extremely beautiful, and it emanated a light that all living beings in this world would be envious of. In contrast, the crimson moon was becoming dimmer and dimmer, as if it were about to disappear from the sky. Chang Yi is going to win. Now that I think about it, her story is extremely inspirational. And Lin drank wine with a high alcohol content. Just 1 cup was enough to set his entire body and consciousness on fire. Su Xiaolan knew that Lin had a lot on his mind, and she silently poured wine for him before speaking in a gentle voice. That's right. Her Tao integration stage has been an extremely difficult journey. Not only did she have to contend with the Dark Wing tribe mighty figures, but she also had to face the suppression of the heavenly Tao. A normal person would most likely have perished a long time ago, but she managed to hold on until dawn. Now, even the heavens won't be able to stop her. If she succeeds in her Tao integration stage, she'll definitely be an extremely dazzling figure. When that time comes, she won't just be the celestial maiden of the Moon Palace and the Moon Palace Lord. She'll also be the Moon Goddess and the ruler of the moon. TSK, TSK, TSK. This really is the treatment of a main character. And Lin raised his cup with a smile. Su Xiaolan could see the envy in Lin's eyes, and she silently poured another cup of wine for him with a smile. You're also the treatment of a main character. You're the hero of the entire Tai Chu continent against the heavenly human tribe. All of the other prodigies on the Tai Chu continent are just side characters compared to you. Why are you still yearning for the lives of others? Main character. A self-deprecating smile appeared on Lin's face. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. How could there be such a fake main character? A main character who could even cultivate to become an immortal? Who was he trying to fool? I feel like you're not quite yourself. Did something happen? Su Xiaolan sidled up to Lin as she stared intently at the man beside her. When the world is about to be destroyed and all of your friends and family are about to die, would you do it if you were given a choice to sacrifice yourself to save the world? A wry smile appeared on Lin's face. Su Xiaolan's body shuddered, and she was rooted to the spot. She was starting to understand what Lin was trying to say. Su Xiaolan really wanted to say no, but she knew that she really would do it. In order to save the people around her, in order to save Enlin, she was willing to sacrifice herself. I would do that! Su Xiaolan couldn't lie to herself, and she certainly couldn't lie to Enlin. Enlin smiled upon hearing this and raised his cup. However, Su Xiaolan's words suddenly sounded again. The woman looked at Enlin with a serious and firm expression. As long as there's a way to save the world without sacrificing myself, I'll do everything in my power to fight for it. Enlin faltered upon hearing this. A warm smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. After all, it really is good to be alive, isn't it? Enlin looked at the smile on the woman's face. Her face was full of wrinkles, but it was extremely beautiful. It was as if a ray of sunlight had dispelled the chill in his heart. That's right, there are other ways. Enlin embraced the woman before him. Thank you, Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan smiled. There's no need to thank me. We should be working hard together. That's right, we should be working hard together. Enlin nodded as he basked in the warmth of her embrace. Enlin, what are you going to do next? Can you tell me? Let's fight together. Su Xiaolan's gentle voice reverberated in his ears. To the land of eternal light, Enlin replied. Why are we going to the land of eternal light? To join the heaven-crushing sect. Chapter 2004. Su Xiaolan was a little dumbfounded. Was she really going to join two sects at the same time? Furthermore, she had only just joined the heaven-mending sect. She hadn't even warmed her seat yet, and she was already going to join the heaven-crushing sect? Was it that urgent? Would Niwa die of anger if she found out? As if he knew what Su Xiaolan was thinking, Enlin said, It's fine. We have to do this sooner or later anyway. We might as well do it now. Su Xiaolan didn't know what to say after seeing how confident Enlin was. She could only nod. All right, then let's go and join the heaven-crushing sect. In the northeastern part of the Tai Chu continent, on a wasteland that had been barren for tens of thousands of years, green grass was breaking through the soil and beautiful flowers were blooming. The auspicious sign of the heaven-mending sect was appearing. However, at the same time there were gusts of wind that were as sharp as knives and energy that resembled demons that were about to devour people. The heaven-crushing sect's aura was also spreading. In the center of the Purple Star ruins, there was a holy land that was eternally radiant. It was as if it were a pearl that would never fade, and it was radiating even more dazzling light than before. That was the headquarters of the heaven-crushing sect, the land of eternal light. At this moment, cries of astonishment were already erupting from the land of eternal light. Breaking news! Breaking news! Sect leader Enlin has joined the heaven-crushing sect. What? Really? Someone was astonished. Of course it's true. And he's going to be the third heavenly disciple. He's fully deserving of this position. Apart from God, and who else has the right to be the third heavenly disciple? That's great. This is the best news our sect has received since we started the heaven-crushing sect. The powerful beings of the heaven-crushing sect were all cheering excitedly. They were so excited that they couldn't control their emotions. And Lin's prestige in the eyes of these powerful beings was simply too great. In fact, his prestige had even surpassed that of Chun Chin and Cyril. His entry into the heaven-crushing sect was like adding a stabilizing force to their sect. Just as the heaven-crushing sect members were cheering and wanting to see Enlin, Xue Yin flew out lightly. She flew toward the heaven-crushing sect members and instructed them to keep this matter a secret. Moreover, they had to swear oaths in front of Enlin. This level of secrecy was simply out of this world. However, the members did not have any objections. Their faces were flushed with excitement, and they all swore to keep it a secret. They all knew that keeping it a secret meant that they had to do something secretly. Could it be that Enlin, the Son of Heaven, was going to do something big again? He was really looking forward to it. At this moment, the main character of the incident had already arrived at the heaven-crushing sect's heaven-crushing glazed palace. He was inspecting their core heaven-crushing formation. Cyril, Qin Chen, and the ancient Dragon Empress were explaining to Enlin in person. This was the highest level of hospitality that they had ever received. No one had ever been received by all three of them at the same time aside from Enlin. If they knew that Enlin was here to get information for free, what would they think? This is the core of our heaven-crushing formation, and this is the yin-yang chaotic bead. It's the core of the formation. Cyril explained with a wide smile. Oh, so awesome, so awesome. And Lin looked at the classified information in front of him and couldn't help but nod, feeling that it was an eye-opener. Su Xiaolan walked beside Enlin in a green dress. The heavenly disciples didn't try to avoid her at all, clearly treating her as one of their own. Only after truly venturing into the depths of the heaven-crushing sect did Enlin realize just how fantastical these people were. No, fantastical couldn't even be described as a bunch of lunatics. Saving the Tai Chu continent was actually just a side mission for them, or rather, it was only one of their goals. They had other thoughts and objectives. The heavenly disciples and heavenly disciple candidates all had the desire to become the heavenly Tao. A heavenly disciple who didn't want to be the heavenly God wasn't a good heavenly disciple. That was what Cyril thought, the ancient Dragon Empress thought, and even Chen Qin thought. Of course, before becoming the heavenly disciples, they had all sworn vows to protect all living beings and ensure that the world developed in a normal and harmonious direction. As long as it wasn't a world-destroying disaster, they wouldn't interfere in mortal affairs. As for why they wanted to become the heavenly Tao, everyone had their own reasons. Cyril wanted to see what was a cultivation base higher than the God of Creation stage. To put it more accurately, he wanted to see his own Tao. The ancient Dragon Empress wanted to live, and she wanted to lead her tribe to prosperity. Qin Chen's goal was quite simple. He only wanted the human race to be safe and sound. He had no desires for himself. And Lin, why do you want to become a heavenly disciple? Qin Chen asked. Me? And Lin blinked. I want world peace. Qin Chen, can't you be more realistic? Cyril didn't believe in Lin's **T. More realistic? And Lin became excited. After becoming the heavenly disciple, I can do whatever I want. I can eat the best food, have the most fun, and chase after the prettiest girls. Qin Chen. Cyril was astonished. Isn't that a little too realistic? Then Su Xiaolan pinched Enlin's waist viciously. Watch your image, Su Xiaolan said with a fake smile, and Lin nodded obediently. Immediately afterward, Enlin inspected a series of the heaven-crushing sect's strategic weapons. It could be summed up in 6 words. Bad *SS. Insane. Invincible. The heaven-crushing sect was very much to Enlin's taste. To Enlin, this was a path forward that he could take without sacrificing himself. Mending the heavens was good, but if he wasn't careful, he could end up killing himself. However, crushing the heavens was different. Crushing the heavens was to destroy the heavenly Tao before becoming the heavenly Tao himself. This prevented Enlin from becoming a sacrificial offering. Enlin also began to understand why Cyril said that Enlin had the highest chance of successfully crushing the heavens. Darkness represented the end of all things. Wasn't using the power of darkness to end the heavenly Tao the same as using the heavenly Tao to kill the heavenly Tao? Wasn't rebuilding the heavenly Tao the same as using the heavenly Tao to create the heavenly Tao? Regardless of whether it was in name or in essence, Enlin had a better chance of becoming the new heavenly Tao. However, the prerequisite was that Enlin really was the heavenly darkness god. From now on, Enlin is the 3rd heavenly disciple of our heaven-crushing sect. He will fight alongside us and carve out a new future for us. Cyril announced to the hundreds of heaven-crushing sect members before him. A tsunami of cheers erupted from the audience. The 3 heavenly disciple candidates, the battling Buddha, Yun Menjing and Michael, were all clapping their hands incessantly. It was clear that they were wholeheartedly convinced by this heavenly disciple. And Lin wore a white robe, and he stood on the platform before bowing respectfully to the members below with a smile. "From now on, we are comrades. The divine Phoenix Maiden, Su Xiaolan, will be the third heavenly disciple's attendant," Cyril continued. Su Xiaolan wore a jade dress and a mask as she stepped forward. Another wave of raucous cheers erupted from the audience. Yun Menjing pouted with a forlorn expression. "What? I just applied to be in Lin's heavenly disciple's attendant, but Su Xiaolan suddenly appeared. Sigh, what am I going to do about my marriage? If it were someone else taking on the role of Lin's heavenly disciple, she might have been able to fight for it. However, her opponent was Su Xiaolan, so she instantly gave up on that idea. This was a god of creation stage being. How was she going to poach him? She couldn't afford to mess with her. Chapter 2005. And Lin officially joined the heaven-crushing sect, signed a heaven-crushing contract, and swore an oath. Experiments proved that one person could sign both a heaven-mending contract and a heaven-crushing contract at the same time. And Lin wore a white robe with black edges, and he stood proudly in the most eye-catching spot of the heaven-crushing glazed palace. He began his speech, and all of the heaven-crushing sect members listened with rapt attention. He had become accustomed to bragging in the 4-9 Immortal sect, so he was quite adept at making his speech more impassioned and uplifting. Just a few words were enough to ignite the atmosphere, and a burst of raucous cheers erupted from the audience. Immediately afterward, the cheers of the heaven-crushing sect members became louder and louder, and their gazes toward Lin became even more fanatical. Cyril and Chen Qin couldn't help but draw a sharp intake of breath upon seeing this. The heaven-crushing sect did need fighting spirit, but wasn't this a little too impassioned? Why were they yelling that Lin was undefeatable and invincible as a war god? Why were they yelling that God and was in love with him? Cyril was starting to wonder if he had recruited a heavenly disciple or a multi-level scammer as he looked at the crazed expressions on the faces of the heaven-crushing sect members. An hour later, the inaugural speech finally concluded, and Lin left the stage amid raucous cheers. He then went to a secret chamber and picked up an ancient scroll to continue his observation. He now had two identities. After learning many secrets, he had finally transformed from a clueless noob to a knowledgeable senior. His understanding of heaven-mending and heaven-crushing had reached an extremely profound level, far surpassing that of normal mighty figures. The ancient scroll he was observing was the heaven-crushing sect's paramount mystic treasure, the ancient Tai Chu Realm Destruction Log. The ancient Tai Chu Realm Destruction Log recorded how the ancient Tai Chu realm had been destroyed and how the heavenly Tao had crumbled. As long as one could comprehend it, they would know how to crush the heavens. This thing could be said to be an extremely mysterious and profound treasure. There was only one thing that Lin didn't understand. Who was the one who wrote such a powerful diary of destruction? He had asked Cyril, but even Cyril, the owner of the treasure, did not know. Cyril said that he had risked his life to find this thing on a destroyed sacrificial altar in the ancient Tai Chu realm, and he had even made up his own name for it. This was most likely a transcendent being that had witnessed the destruction of the ancient Tai Chu realm and left it here. And Lin looked at the strange symbols and images on the scroll. He didn't understand anything at first glance, but if he were to immerse himself in the scroll, he would immediately be able to visualize the shocking and realistic images in his mind. It was a terrifying scene of heaven and earth being destroyed. Billions of living beings were instantly killed. The heavenly Tao collapsed, and all things went out of control. Disasters that could not be understood by the living beings of the world began to appear. For example, in some regions, one could survive if they walked towards the east, but if they walked towards the west, they would immediately die. For example, if he laughed, he would be able to ascend to the heavens, and if he felt sad, his body would explode. For example, in some areas, the genders of the opposite sex would be swapped. Touching someone of the opposite sex would result in instant death. Deadly germs began to spread, and natural disasters began to appear one after another. The remaining creatures fell into complete despair. The great earth and sky collapsed piece by piece, returning to nothingness. The cultivators could only run and become more powerful. However, none of them were able to make breakthroughs, and their cultivation paths had been completely severed. The only thing they could do was wait for death. The mortals didn't even live for a year before all of them perished. Countless beautiful homes were quickly destroyed, and countless living beings wailed and wailed in anguish. This was a scene of destruction and death. And Lin became more and more shocked as he looked at the scroll, and he was completely immersed in it. If the heavenly Tao of the Tai Chu continent was completely destroyed, this would probably be the scene as well, right? The Tao nodes of the heavenly Tao of destruction also began to appear. These intersecting points were equivalent to the acupoints of the human body. After careful comparison, and Lin discovered that these were very similar to the nodes of the heaven-crushing sect's heaven-crushing formation. This ancient Tai Chu realm observation log was like a guide for the heaven-crushing sect. At the end of the image, an ethereal immortal tossed a ball of light imbued with boundless hope into the distance before completely falling into darkness. And Lin woke up. His expression was a little exhausted, but his eyes were extremely bright. Every time he looked at the ancient Tai Chu realm observation log, he would attain new enlightenment. This item could constantly enhance his understanding of the heavens. Furthermore, perhaps this was due to his constitution, but he could see the essence behind it, as if he could touch the heavenly Tao with his bare hands. The heaven-crushing formation is divided into 3 major stages. The first stage is accumulating power. The second stage is crushing the heavens, and the third stage is becoming the heavens. If the heaven-crushing sect enters the second stage first, then the heaven-mending sect will have failed. And Lin sighed with emotion. He had joined the heaven-crushing sect, and he knew that they were currently in the first stage of accumulating power. Once they finished accumulating power, they would truly be crushing the heavens, and there was less than half a year left until the second stage. Time is getting more and more urgent. If the heaven-mending sect doesn't have my help, how are they going to mend the heavens? From what Niwa said, it seems like she doesn't know why the Tao of Darkness is able to repair itself. A thoughtful expression appeared on Lin's face. And Lin, you look like you have something on your mind. Have you encountered some trouble? A handsome youth in a plain linen robe made his way to Lin's side with a smile on his face. His eyes were so clear that they seemed to be able to reflect everything in this world. And Lin joining the heaven-crushing sect was a joyous occasion. Even the normally expressionless youth had a hint of a smile on his face. Chen, and Lin looked at the youth beside him with a hesitant expression. Is there anything you can't tell me? Chen asked with a smile, and Lin knew that the youth before him gave him a very special sense of security. The scenes of them fighting side by side in the past flashed through his mind, and he finally let down his guard. I don't want to die. I want to become the heavenly Tao. That way I won't die, right? Chen nodded. If I can crush the heavens successfully, I'll do everything in my power to help you become the heavenly Tao. You won't die and you'll be reborn. You'll do everything in your power to help me become the heavenly Tao? Don't you want to become the heavenly Tao as well? And Lin's heart stirred slightly as he looked at the youth before him. No, becoming the heavenly Tao is only a means. My true goal is to make this world a better place. You're more suitable than me, so I'll help you, Chen said with a serious expression as he looked at Lin. Make the world a better place. If anyone else had said this to Lin might have slapped them across the face. However, this was coming from Chen, so Lin believed him. Thank you, Chen. What are you saying this for? We're true comrades now. That's right, and we're very good friends. We're good friends. Is Shui Yin your girlfriend? Good brother. Why did you hide this from me? Say something. Chen, do you love her? I'll take it as a yes if you don't say anything. Chapter 2006. After that, Chen refused to speak, no matter how Lin pestered him. And Lin could already tell that Shui Yen liked Chin Chin. More accurately speaking, all the members of the heaven-crushing sect could tell. However, he was extremely curious as to whether Chin Chin liked Shui Yan or not. Brother Chin Chin, don't go!" And Lin called out to the departing figure. However, the figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was most likely Lin who didn't want to see any gossip, and Lin had no choice but to give up on this idea. He and Su Xiaolan studied in the heaven-crushing sect for a while before returning to Yutong City. They had already mastered the core techniques of the heaven-crushing sect. All that was left was for them to practice and comprehend on their own. There was no point in staying in the land of eternal light, and Lin discovered that his heaven-crushing techniques had improved significantly. Now, it was time for him to test his firepower against the heavenly beings. The formation glowed brightly, and Lin and Su Xiaolan appeared in Yutong City. Ah, it smells so good! A light breeze blew past, and Lin smelled the fragrance of osmanthus flowers. There was a large path in front of the formation. Osmanthus trees were in full bloom on both sides of the path. They swayed in the wind under the moonlight, and their fragrance wafted through the air, giving one a sense of tranquility and sweetness. An expression of enjoyment appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. My mind was filled with thoughts of crushing the heavens. Now I can finally empty my mind after becoming a heavenly disciple's attendant. She had enjoyed some of the top-tier benefits of the heaven-crushing sect. Her comprehension of the heaven-crushing Tao had improved by leaps and bounds, and she had even successfully crushed the heavens in the simulated world. In fact, even if she wanted to become a heavenly disciple, Cyril and Chin Chin would agree. Both her comprehension of the Tao and her cultivation base had reached the required standards. However, she didn't want to. She only wanted to be in Lin's heavenly disciple's attendant. When the candidates found out about this, they were all shocked and emotional. They wanted the position of heavenly son, even if they had to risk their lives. But Su Xiaolan did not care at all. This really made them want to vomit blood. "Let's go, Su Xiaolan, let's go home." And Lin took the initiative to hold Su Xiaolan's hand. Su Xiaolan nodded with a smile and walked with Lin on the Osmanthus Avenue. The bright moonlight elongated their shadows. Back at the courtyard, Su Xiaolan returned to her room and lay down as usual. Ever since the abnormality occurred to her body, she liked to sleep a lot. Everything seemed to be normal. She soon drifted off to sleep. In the darkness, a white light suddenly appeared in the distance. That light was extremely alluring, as if it was hope, the future, and the meaning of living. Su Xiaolan began to chase after the light. She kept running and running. After an unknown period of time, she finally held the ray of light in her arms. In that instant, she felt as if she had everything. Su Xiaolan felt an indescribable sense of relief and freedom. Then she flew higher and higher like a bird, looking down at everything in the world. What a comfortable feeling. This was probably the true meaning of life, right? Su Xiaolan felt like she was rising into the air. She looked down and saw the familiar courtyard and pavilion. She saw her withered body and saw Lin quietly meditating. So real. Why did all of this look so real? No, that's not right. Su Xiaolan suddenly came to a realization, and she focused her senses even more intently. She then discovered something very astonishing, and that was that all of this was real. That's right, this was reality, this was reality. Su Xiaolan's eyes widened. If all of this was real and the Shaolin in the room was real, then what was her current body? She looked down at herself and discovered that her body was actually a miniature vermilion bird. It was slowly flying into the sky, as if it were pursuing the truth of life and becoming more and more ethereal and transcendent. I remember now. I finally know what this feeling is. This is the feeling of transcending heaven and earth. The transformation of life, the ultimate form of life, is actually transcending the world and becoming an indestructible, eternal existence. I've experienced everything from the time I was a newborn baby to the time I'm old. My life has already come to an end, and my karma has also come to an end. Now it's time to pursue my true self. Su Xiaolan came to a sudden realization. She instantly understood life and understood her own Tao. The miniature vermilion bird slowly rose into the sky, and the courtyard became smaller and smaller in her eyes. Su Xiaolan's entire body yearned for transcendence. This was the ultimate pursuit of life. This kind of temptation and yearning couldn't be resisted with simple willpower. Even the previous great empress, Vermilion Bird, was unable to accomplish this. It was very likely that Su Xiaolan was about to accomplish this. Even now, Su Xiaolan still didn't understand why she was able to transcend beyond this world. The previous great empress, Vermilion Bird, also had a Vermilion Bird holy birth. Could it be because she was an unprecedented dual Tao integration stage supermighty figure? Or could it be that she had an extremely deep understanding of heaven-crushing sect, and even the heavens were scared of her, which was why they hurriedly sent her away? This was a very plausible conjecture. After all, she had just returned from the heaven-crushing sect and transcended on the very same night. Su Xiaolan's mind was in a mess, and she thought about many things. The only thing that didn't change was that she knew that transcendence was the path of absolute righteousness. It was a path that all gods of creation on the entire Tai Chu continent and the entire realm of stars were pursuing. No, I haven't even reached the god of creation stage, so how did I transcend? Su Xiaolan's heart jolted with shock. At this moment, her body gradually became more and more illusionary. Her eyes began to flash past the stars and all things. After that, all of her questions were answered. It was as if Su Xiaolan had become omniscient and omnipotent. Cultivation base? That's not important. Power? That's not important either. She raised her head to discover an ethereal figure standing at the pinnacle of worlds with an otherworldly grace and grace. That was her future appearance. The heavenly flying immortal. A true immortal. Feelings? Not that heavy. Su Xiaolan's throat suddenly constricted. A figure appeared in her mind. Many of her obsessions had been abandoned by her, and she was about to become a truly carefree and unfettered being. However, that figure was a little blurry, and it suddenly appeared. Just as she thought that the figure would become more and more blurry until it disappeared, the figure began to become clearer and clearer. There were two of them fighting side by side, two of them sitting on a rock, looking at the sea of clouds, two of them encouraging each other in their cultivation, and two of them discussing their cooking experiences. She couldn't forget them. She couldn't forget them at all. If you miss this opportunity, you won't have another chance. The ethereal figure spoke in an ethereal voice. Feelings aren't important. They're important. They're important. Su Xiaolan's voice became more and more determined. The image in her mind stopped at the scene of the two of them looking at each other at dusk, then at the scene of Enlin smiling and kissing her wrinkled forehead in the morning. A smile suddenly appeared on Su Xiaolan's face, and she waved a hand, upon which the ethereal figure in the sky disappeared. There was only one voice, ethereal and extraordinary, that shot straight up to the 9 heavens. What's so good about heavenly flying immortal? My pig trotter is more important. Chapter 2007. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The clear cries of the vermilion bird Bing, XAN, reverberated throughout Yutong City. The 6 vermilion bird sages were playing the role of roosters and blowing the prologue of the day. The morning sun shone through the window and onto Enlin's meditating body. The door was gently pushed open. Enlin hadn't even opened his eyes when a pair of soft lips pressed lightly against his forehead, sending bursts of moist warmth through his body. It was as if a dewy flower had bloomed before his eyes in the morning, giving him a pleasant and intoxicating feeling. Enlin opened his eyes upon catching a whiff of a familiar fragrance. He was greeted by the sight of a woman in a jade dress with her hands clasped behind her back. She had a faint smile on her face, and her long, inky black hair hung loosely around her waist. Her petite body gave off an ethereal aura, and her voice was as pleasant to the ears as an aureole. 20-year-old Xiaolan, good morning to you. Her features were so beautiful that all women in this world would be envious of her, and she was standing right in front of Enlin. Her fragrant breath lingered on the tip of Enlin's nose as she spoke. Enlin was rooted to the spot as he stared blankly at the woman before him. His Xiaolan, the Xiaolan that had haunted his dreams, was finally back. Are you dazed? Su Xiaolan looked at Enlin with a smug expression as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She was just about to say something when she discovered that her body had already been drawn into Enlin's arms. This was a familiar scent and a familiar warmth. This is great. Xiaolan, you're finally back. You've finally recovered. I was so scared that you were going to grow old and leave me forever, and Lin held her tightly in his arms as he sobbed. Only now did he voice out his true concern. Su Xiaolan faltered slightly before a gentle smile appeared on her face. What are you thinking, silly? How could I leave you like this? No matter who or what happens, nothing will be able to separate us. And Lin was so excited that he gave Su Xiaolan a good morning kiss. Su Xiaolan was like a bashful little sister next door, and she quickly took a step back in fear. Her cheeks were flushed red as she looked at Enlin. Why, you were too enthusiastic just then. I'm celebrating your successful recovery. And Lin smiled happily. Then he said with some surprise, also, I feel that your aura seems to be even more ethereal. It's like clouds and mist, making it hard for people to grasp it. Is this because you've become stronger? Be more cultured with your words. Su Xiaolan snorted. Xiaolan, you've become stronger? And Lin corrected himself. The vermilion bird heart essence has completely fused with me, and my power has increased explosively again. However, I don't know exactly how powerful I've become, Su Xiaolan replied. And Lin held onto Su Xiaolan's hand. He looked at this exquisite beauty before him, smelled her alluring body fragrance, and felt the soft and bouncy sensation in his hand. He was feeling extremely blissful. He asked with a concerned expression, You've returned to your original form. This is a joyous occasion. Are there any other abnormalities in your body? Are you feeling all right? I'm feeling pretty good, Su Xiaolan replied. Really? How good? Let me try. And Lin's eyes lit up. Su Xiaolan. And Lin's perverted hand was slapped away. What are you doing? I'm just concerned about you. And Lin's expression was filled with concern as he asked, Xiaolan, how are you feeling? Again. Su Xiaolan's expression darkened, and she harumphed coldly. Not so good. Really? How bad? Let me examine you. And Lin was suddenly excited, and there was a pure and curious expression on his face, as if he were a curious baby. Boom! Ah! Spare me! Don't hit my face! Thump, thump, thump! Slap, slap, slap! Clatter, 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 clatter! Puff, puff, puff! As it turned out, Su Xiaolan's body was very healthy and lively, and Lin used his own tragic experience to prove that this was effective, and he gave her a 5-star rating. The two of them cuddled around in the room for a while before holding hands and making their way out of the room. It feels so good to be young. Su Xiaolan took a deep breath and looked up at the morning sky with an emotional expression. She was currently wearing no makeup, but her beauty was overwhelming. We're about to face the most intense battle. And Lin smiled. Su Xiaolan nodded. That's right. The most intense battle. They had joined the heaven-crushing sect, so they naturally had to fight for the heaven-crushing sect. The heaven-mending sect could survive until the very end, and the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods would mind their own business. But the heaven-crushing sect couldn't. The heaven-crushing sect posed a threat to the core of the heavenly Tao, so the heavenly human tribe and the heavenly gods could attack them without any qualms. And Lin was already the third heavenly disciple of the heaven-crushing sect, and he had already decided on the path he wanted to walk. If he wanted to survive, he had to fight the heavenly human tribe to the death for the heaven-crushing sect. The land of eternal light is the core of the heaven-crushing formation. If the paramount heavenly gods want to attack, they'll definitely target that place first, Su Xiaolan said. And Lin smiled. We can definitely keep them at bay here. If the heavenly earth god appears in the land of eternal light, then the central heavenly gate will definitely be destroyed. What if the heavenly sea god comes to keep us at bay? Su Xiaolan asked with a concerned expression. Well, and Lin hesitated momentarily. Wife, the heavenly sea god is one of us. If the heavenly sea comes, then we can each hold one of them at bay. And Lin gritted his teeth. Su Xiaolan blushed. And Lin, you think too highly of me. And Lin spoke with a serious expression. Behind every bad *SS man is a bad *SS woman. With a bunch of bad *SS women? Su Xiaolan interjected, and Lin's legs trembled upon hearing this. I'm not talking about you, Xiaolan. I'm not talking about you. Su Xiaolan covered her mouth as she chuckled. The two of them chatted and laughed as they stood atop the city wall of Yutong City. The city wall of Yutong City was over a kilometer tall, and from the top of the city wall, one could see a stretch of pure white where the earth and the sky intersected. That was where the White Nectar Sea was located. Their line of sight continued onward, and they could also see a divine tree that pierced into the heavens. The top of the divine tree was shrouded in clouds and mist, making it impossible to see what it was. The central heavenly gate should be at the top of the divine tree, and Lin said as his eyes narrowed slightly. If we destroy all of the heavenly gates, what will happen to the heavenly gods? Su Xiaolan asked with a curious expression, and Lin smiled. I don't know, but it'll definitely be a devastating blow to them. Su Xiaolan pressed down on the dragon sparrow sword in her hand with an eager expression. How about we take down the central heavenly gate before our enemies know our true power? And Lin immediately shook his head upon hearing this. Don't do anything rash. They're not that simple. I can sense that the heavenly earth god isn't the only one who can pose a threat to me. Could it be that there are other paramount heavenly gods? Su Xiaolan exclaimed. In this world, only paramount heavenly gods could pose a threat to Lin. And Lin stood atop the city wall and looked up at the clouds as he murmured to himself, Let's wait for the final battle. Chapter 2008. In the Room of Life. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. Ha 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 ha. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue chortled with glee. Nuwa sat off to the side with a cold expression, panting with rage and not saying a word. That gentle and beautiful face that could charm all living beings was a little flushed. Black spirit snake and white spirit snake stared blankly at the scene unfolding before them. How many tens of thousands of years had it been since Her Majesty last revealed such an expression? To think that Lin could make her reveal such an expression. From a certain perspective, Lin was really bad *SS. Are you done laughing? Nuwa asked coldly. Ha ha ha. No. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue chortled with glee. Nuwa gritted her teeth and clenched her fists tightly, as if she was trying to suppress the rage in her heart. She was initially very happy, and she even boasted to the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue that she had successfully recruited Lin to join the heaven mending sect. She told him that even without the help of the heavenly lord of Tao and virtue, she wouldn't be afraid. Just as she was boasting, Cyril contacted her via voice transmission talisman. Cyril excitedly boasted to Nuwa that Lin had agreed to join the heaven-crushing sect and had become the third heavenly disciple. And Lin was now a member of the heaven-crushing sect. Nuwa was astonished. What the hell? The third heavenly disciple? Didn't he only just join the heaven-mending sect? How did he become the third heavenly disciple in less than a day? Soon, Nuwa recalled what Lin had said to her. Would he be able to join the heaven-crushing sect if he signed the heaven-mending contract? That had infuriated her greatly. Nuwa had told him not to let her know that Lin was connected to the heaven-crushing sect. And Lin indeed hadn't informed Nuwa to join the heaven-crushing sect. But Cyril had come to boast Nuwa was so enraged that she almost cursed out loud. She immediately hung up the phone. What kind of place did he think the heaven-mending sect was? What the F***ck? Other people knew how to take a few days to get a prostitute, but you and Lin had just left this place, and you didn't even take a breather before running off to the heaven-crushing sect to become a heavenly disciple? Nuwa rolled up her sleeves and was about to go to Yutong City to beat up Lin. However, she stopped at the door and thought that she had to maintain her mysterious, kind, and beautiful image of a goddess. She sat back down angrily and played with the sandbox beside her. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue had witnessed all of this. The previously smug Nvaiwa was a stark contrast to the flustered and exasperated Nvaiwa. He couldn't help but burst out laughing, which was why the scene from before had taken place. And Lin is really... Nvaiwa gritted her teeth and suddenly did not know how to describe him. Ha ha ha. Don't blame Lin. And Lin has always been someone who doesn't play by the rules. Do you really want him to stay in the heaven-mending sect obediently? The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue chuckled. Nuwa took a deep breath. But things have changed way too quickly. I haven't even had a chance to celebrate, and he's already dealt me a heavy blow. This makes my heart ache. Don't be too disappointed. You have to realize that in Lin's decision to join the heaven-mending sect has changed the minds of some people. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue looked directly into Nuwa's eyes. Nuwa faltered slightly before an expression of elation appeared on her face. Could it be that you... That's right, I've also joined the heaven-mending sect. The heavenly lord of Tao and virtue stroked his beard with a smile. The life goddess was feeling an indescribable sense of unease recently. Heavens, have we raised Lin too much? What do you mean? His power is actually nothing to us, right? An old head formed from clouds, and mist appeared in the sky and spoke calmly. But he's brought us too many variables. The life goddess pursed her lips and looked to the north, at the magnificent city in the distance that had turned into a black. There was worry in her eyes, and she murmured, "Many of his actions are beyond our expectations, such as the trip to the realm of stars and the disaster of 1 billion heavenly human eggs. I'm afraid this is a bad sign. Life goddess, you're thinking too much. No matter what he does, he's only doing it within the chessboard, and we're the chess players. And Lin is just a chess piece, and no matter what he does, he won't be able to change the course of events. He won't be able to jump out of the chessboard, and he won't be able to completely escape our control." The heavenly heaven god's expression was still as cold as ever, as if it was calmly stating a fact. That's true. No matter what he does, he's still a chess piece. The heavenly life goddess nodded. Everything that Lin had done was very surprising to them, but it was still their paramount heavenly gods who were in control of the course of events. Everything that had happened thus far had changed their tempo, and the execution of their plan had also been dealt a heavy blow. However, that didn't actually hinder the execution of their core plan. Light, Earth, and Sea are going to start their final battle soon, right? The heavenly life goddess smiled. Of course, the heaven-crushing sect has already begun their final battle, so they're definitely going to start as well. The heavenly heaven god nodded. The heavenly life goddess looked down, and her long, pointy ears fluttered like butterflies. There were specks of golden light dancing around them, and an imperceptible smile appeared on her face. I'm really looking forward to seeing the heavenly sea god's performance at this moment in the distance of a blue planet on the edge of the solar system. A young woman with long, white rabbit ears and a slender figure was currently frying vegetables with a spatula in her hand. She grumbled in dissatisfaction as she cooked. Stupid Lin. You promised to give me super delicious food 3 times a week if I protect Earth. Now, you're telling me to cook myself under the pretext that I'm too busy fighting. I can cook myself, so why would I need to beg you to cook for me? Scumbag. What a scumbag. He's just a big pig trotter full of lies. The rabbit maiden bared her teeth and grumbled to herself with a displeased expression. If it weren't for the fact that the frying pan that Lin had given her had a special flavor enhancement effect, she would most likely be cooking a pile of sh*t. It smells so good. My cooking skills aren't that bad after all. The rabbit maiden's eyes narrowed as she inhaled the aroma wafting from the frying pan with an intoxicated expression. Right at this moment, the massive spatial gate between the two worlds suddenly began to tremor violently. Swish! A twisted and contorted demon suddenly leaped out of the spatial gate with a pile of black *t in its hand, which it hurled toward the rabbit maiden. A foul stench erupted forth like a nuclear bomb. The rabbit maiden was astonished. "Ah, die!" she screamed as she instantly reduced the sinister demon and the pile of sh*t to nothingness. My sh*t! My super delicious sh*t! The rabbit maiden looked at the sh*t in the frying pan with tears streaming down her face. "It's over. I've lost my appetite." She had finally managed to cook a delicious sh*t. An enemy suddenly appeared out of nowhere and threw sh*t into her frying pan. Who came up with such a disgusting tactic? Which f***er came up with this? Even though the sh*t didn't come into contact with the frying pan, the rabbit maiden could already smell the foul stench. Every 2 or 3 days, you can't even fight properly. All you do is send some soldiers to throw shit at me. Very well. You've successfully enraged me. The rabbit maiden spoke in a cold voice as she looked at the glowing spatial gate. Chapter 2009. The Wa realm was a world created by Nuwa for the human race to thrive, and it was the second target that the heavenly human tribe wanted to destroy. However, there was a god of creation stage rabbit maiden standing guard behind the spatial gate between the two realms, and this place had become a nightmare for all heavenly human tribe cultivators. After the deaths of a large number of heavenly human tribe scouts, the heavenly human tribe no longer bothered to spy on their own people. Instead, a series of twisted, deranged demons of hell with countless negative emotions began to appear, and they threw feces at the rabbit maiden in a frenzy to disgust her. Wasn't this a very familiar scene? That's right, he had learned this from Tina. Even a rabbit would bite when it was forced into a corner. The rabbit maiden gritted her teeth and contacted Enlin via voice transmission talisman. A familiar voice sounded from the other side of the voice transmission talisman. "Little rabbit, why are you calling me all of a sudden?" Enlin asked with a smile. "Enlin, this is intolerable. I'm going to enter the spatial gate between the two worlds and follow the path they took to kill the heavenly human tribe cultivators." The rabbit maiden was enraged, and Lin was given a fright. "Don't do that. What are you doing?" "What am I doing?" The rabbit maiden chuckled coldly. "They sent demons of hell to throw feces at me. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. Why did this scene seem so familiar? "You have to calm down. They're trying to bait you into a trap. You can tolerate them once or twice." And Lin tried to dissuade her. Once or twice. To tell you the truth, they've already thrown feces at me over 1,000 times, once every minute or two. I'm only calling you because I can't tolerate them anymore." The rabbit maiden's voice was trembling with rage, and Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this. Over 1,000 times? They sacrificed over 1,000 demons of hell just to throw feces at the rabbit maiden. Were the heavenly human tribe cultivators that crazy? No. How could the heavenly human tribe cultivators control the demons of hell? And Lin suddenly realized something. "Rabbit maiden, hold on a little longer. I have something urgent to take care of." And Lin instructed before ending the call. Hey! The rabbit maiden looked at the disconnected voice transmission talisman, and she stomped her foot in frustration. You're going to abandon me, just like that? He hung up just like that? Bastard. At this time, the two worlds of space fluctuated. A demon of hell leaped out before tossing an inky black object with a sinister smile on its face toward the rabbit maiden. Ah! The rabbit maiden let loose an enraged roar as she slapped the demon of hell into nothingness. She had initially thought that her battle against the heavenly mind god was enough to intimidate her enemies. She had thought that she would be able to observe the galaxy of stars and contemplate her life in peace with this mission. However, she did not expect that what greeted her was the humiliation of throwing feces once every 2 minutes. Once every 2 minutes. Even her only hobby of eating delicious food was taken away. The rabbit maiden flew into a thunderous rage, and she clawed at Lin with her sharp rabbit claws. And Lin, you better hurry up. I can't contain the power within my body anymore. In the southeastern region of Tai Chu continent, on a vast and boundless yellow land, a gargantuan crimson formation encompassed an area with a radius of over 5,000 kilometers. Countless ants that were even larger than humans with hard scales all over their bodies were gathered together and worshipped toward the center of the formation. There were over 30 million of them gathered together to form an ocean. More than 30 giant ants at the level of the Queen Mother were like giant fortresses, lying quietly at each node of the formation. They were also looking at the scene not far away with anticipation. They were waiting for the birth of their monarch. An extremely powerful red bigmouth ant wielding a skeletal staff was High Priestess Red Jade of the ant tribe, and she began a ritual to summon the ant monarch. The last time they had summoned the ant emperor, they had to sacrifice a large number of human beings, but Emperor Ziwei had ruined their plans and almost wiped out their entire nest. The ant tribe hadn't been completely wiped out because they had to use the ant emperor to fight against the demons of hell underground. That had been a massive humiliation for the ant tribe. Now that the human race was at war with the heavenly human tribe, the ant tribe could perform a blood sacrifice to secretly feed the ant monarch's egg. They didn't even have to mobilize their ant soldiers to gather a large amount of fortune and blood energy. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. He would definitely be able to summon the ant emperor, smoothly this time. Once the ant tribe had a Tao integration stage ant monarch, they would be able to easily create an army of several 100 million ants. When that time came, conquering the kingdom of the 9 states and the Tai Chu continent would be a piece of cake. The day they ruled over the Tai Chu continent was just around the corner. High Priestess Red Jade's eyes burned with a scorching light, and a dazzling divine Tao light erupted from the antennae on her head. She spread open her arms toward the egg, upon which a vast amount of blood energy surged forth from the formation before converging in a frenzy. Come forth, our monarch. Today is the day the ant tribe rises to power, Red Jade yelled, and her voice spread throughout the entire ant tribe army. Welcome, our monarch. Welcome, our monarch. The ant tribe army of 30 million yelled in unison. The light from the formation became brighter and brighter, and a series of cracks began to appear on the translucent egg. Right at this moment, the earth suddenly began to tremor violently. Is our monarch about to descend? What a massive commotion! The entire earth is trembling. The aura of our monarch sure is powerful, as expected of our monarch. Some of the ant tribe living beings were already yelling in praise of their monarch. However, Hong Yu's expression shifted drastically. What the F***CK is this monarch's aura? We're being attacked. The earth began to tremor more and more violently. The earth within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers was trembling. Hurry! Prepare for battle! Hong Yu roared. Boom, boom, boom. Before the ant tribe living beings had a chance to react, the earth began to crumble. Countless dark, demonic creatures surged forth from the cracks. All of them were bloodthirsty and crazed, and they pounced toward the ant tribe army with their sharp claws and fangs. They tore through the ant tribe's tough shells before tearing into their flesh and blood. It's the demons of hell. The demons of hell are here, an ant tribe general yelled. High Priestess Red Jade roared. They must be here to stop the birth of the ant emperor. Everyone attack and kill them all. Needless to say, the ant tribe had already pounced toward the demons of hell. The celestial court used the ant tribe to suppress the demons of hell. This was because the ant tribe had a blood feud with the demons of hell, and the two sides often fought. There was no other way. The ant tribe lived here, and the demons of hell would bite any living creature they saw. If the ant tribe didn't kill them, they would be killed, so they could only fight. Ha ha ha! The black dog has come out again. What a forgetful dog! Bite them to death. These things are tastier than humans. When the ant race saw the 9 nether demons, they were actually very contemptuous. Although the other party was powerful individually, the ant race could crush them in numbers. Every time they fought, the 9 nether demons that emerged from the ground would be devoured by the ant race until not even their bones remained. Sure enough, as soon as the demons of hell appeared, they were bitten by the 30 million ant tribe army and suffered heavy casualties. Hong Yu smiled faintly and said in a hoarse voice, "Just a bunch of brainless trash. They're only fit to show our monarch how to die a tragic death." Boom, boom, boom. The cracks in the earth continued to expand, and the demons of hell continued to pour out like a tide. Their numbers were increasing. There was a slight change in Hong Yu's expression. There seemed to be a little more demons of hell this time. There were already 1 million. Howl, howl, howl. The demons of hell pounced in a frenzy. 2 million, 3 million, for million. Ah! The ant tribe army began to wail in anguish as large batches of them were devoured by the demons of hell. Hong Yu was stupefied. She realized that she was losing control of herself. Hurry! Soul formation stage powerful beings. Gather around our monarch and protect him. Right at this moment, the number of demons of hell had already reached an unprecedented number of 10 million. Furthermore, it was still increasing, and they were surging in all directions. It was an extremely terrifying sight. The ant tribe army wailed in anguish. Their only advantage in numbers was beginning to disappear at this time. High Priestess Hong Yu's face was filled with despair and despair. How could this be? How could this be? How could there be so many demons of hell? The earth continued to crack open, and the demons of hell continued to pour out in a frenzy. Their numbers had already reached 20 million. Chapter 2010. There were over 30 million ant tribe soldiers guarding their emperor. Their numbers were still greater than the 2,000 demons of the netherworld. However, even the most ordinary ant tribe soldier knew that their army was about to be crushed. What did 20 million abyss demons mean to them? Each of the abyss demons was comparable to the most ferocious beasts, and they could easily tear apart 3 ant tribe soldiers. It would take 5 ant tribe soldiers to suppress a single abyss demon. This meant that the ant tribe had to outnumber the abyss demons by at least 5 times in order to secure victory. But now it was 3,000 ant tribe soldiers against 20 million abyss demons. We're screwed. That was the only thought in High Priestess Hong Yu's mind. Hurry! Protect the emperor and let the emperor hatch. As long as the emperor hatches, we can turn the tables. High Priestess Hong, you finally saw a glimmer of hope in this dire situation. That's right. Protect the emperor egg. As long as the emperor hatches, we'll be able to fight back and survive. All of the ant tribe powerful beings suddenly came to a realization. A Tao integration stage, super mighty figure would be able to turn the tables. Even if they couldn't defeat the abyss demons, they would at least have a chance to fight their way out. When the experts of the ant race thought of this, they surrounded the center of the formation and fought to the death against the demons of the netherworld, doing their best to protect their emperor. The demons of the netherworld fearlessly pounced over like a raging storm. The ant tribe army also surged toward the abyss demons like a tsunami. The clash between the two sides was like the clash of 2 terrifying waves, sending boundless amounts of blood and body parts flying through the air. Thus, an extremely brutal battle ensued. Even though the ant tribe was no match for the abyss demons, they were not afraid of death. Wah! Over 30 ant tribe queen mothers roared in unison, and their sound waves spread throughout heaven and earth. Not only did the ant tribe army of 30 million rush toward the emperor, but even the other ant tribe soldiers also rushed toward the emperor with no regard for their lives. They completely obeyed the orders of their queen mothers. The ant tribe had reinforcements, but so did the abyss demons. The cracks in the ground were growing larger and larger, and there were still abyss demons surging out. 20 million was not their final number. Soon, the ant tribe was on the verge of collapse. High Priestess Hong Yu's body trembled uncontrollably upon seeing this. So, the demons of the netherworld are actually this powerful. Is this battle the true strength of the demons of the netherworld? They had fought countless battles with the demons of the netherworld, and were able to drive them back underground every time. They didn't know how many netherworld demons there were, but they knew that they could defeat them. But now, all of this was being overturned. The netherworld demons bared their fangs and extended their sharp claws, displaying their true strength. A 10,000-legged centipede-like demon that was 2,000 feet long and had a sinister bloody mouth at the bottom of each foot quickly pounced on an incomparably large queen mother of the ant race. It coiled around her like a giant python, and its 10,000 feet stuck close to the surface of the queen mother's body as it opened its bloody mouth. The queen of the ant tribe let out a shrill shriek. The flesh and bones of her gigantic, fortress-like body were devoured by the demons 10,000 feet. Queen Mother! Kill! Avenge the Queen Mother! All of the ant tribe cultivators pounced toward the centipede demon with bloodshot eyes upon seeing this. The centipede merely cackled as its 1,000 feet stampeded over the ground, and any ant tribe cultivators that it stepped on were eaten by its feet. High Priestess Hong Yu was just about to rush over to help when she discovered that a series of gargantuan black figures sprang forth from the ground. There were over 100 terrifying enemies like the centipede demon. This! High Priestess Hong Yu drew a sharp intake of breath as an expression of incredulity appeared on her face. These centipede demons possessed combat prowess comparable to return to void stage mighty figures, and there were over 100 of them here? Were the ant tribe really going to be wiped out? Was their dream of ruling the world going to be snuffed out in the cradle again? Right at this moment, an elated cry sounded from behind them. It's born! The ant tribe emperor is about to emerge. Look, its shell is already trembling violently. All of the ant tribe powerful beings were overjoyed. Hong Yu's instincts told her that she had seen a ray of hope amidst her despair. At this moment, a return to void stage, eagle-like demon of the netherworld was already flying toward the ant tribe emperor. Protect our emperor! High Priestess Hong Yu let loose an enraged roar as she rose into the sky and swung her skeletal staff viciously toward the demon of the netherworld. The demon of the netherworld's sharp and sinister claws also mercilessly stabbed toward High Priestess Hong Yu. Bam! The terrifying collision shook the void. A peculiar ripple burst forth from the tip of the skeletal staff, and the demon of the netherworld's claws and its massive body were torn apart by the peculiar ripple emanating from the skeletal staff. It didn't even get a chance to cry out before it was insta-killed by High Priestess Hong Yu. So powerful! Long live the High Priestess! All of the ant tribe powerful beings let loose cries of excitement upon seeing Hong Yu slay the most powerful demon of the netherworld. A faint smile appeared on Hong Yu's face. She was a mighty figure at the return to void pinnacle stage, and if she were to face a demon of the netherworld in a one-on-one battle, no matter how many of them there were, they would all die. Our emperor has been born! Ah! Hong Yu was ecstatic to hear this, and she was just about to turn around. Rip! A sharp claw suddenly punctured Hong Yu's head. The entire world began to turn crimson. Hong Yu's eyes widened, and her entire body trembled as an indescribable pain surged through her entire body. This is the most powerful being in the ant tribe. How weak! A faint voice drifted through the air, and everyone fell silent. All of the ant tribe powerful beings raised their heads and stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, as if they had been struck by lightning. High Priestess Hong Yu's head had been punctured by a sharp claw. The owner of the claw had the body of an ant tribe powerful being, and her entire body was pitch black. She had human facial features, golden patterns on her forehead, and long antennae on her head. Emperor, Emperor, why, an ant tribe powerful being stammered as she spoke in a trembling voice. This black ant tribe powerful being was none other than the ant tribe emperor, who had just hatched from her egg. High Priestess Red Jade was also in disbelief. She dreamed of using the ant tribe empress to turn the tables. She dreamed of using the ant tribe empress to destroy the human race and rule over the entire Tai Chu continent. This was the hope of their entire tribe. But how could this powerful being, who bore their limitless hopes, pierce through her head with her sharp claws? Despair, horror, and bewilderment filled High Priestess Hong Yu's entire body. Why? High Priestess Hong Yu spoke with difficulty. So weak this body. The ant tribe emperor twisted its body with a disdainful expression. It couldn't even be bothered to answer her question, and its claw moved lightly. Rip! High Priestess Hong Yu's body was torn to shreds, and her vitality was completely severed. That's right, it was wasting its time talking to a living being like this. High Priestess Hong Yu. Why, my emperor? Countless ant tribe powerful beings held with grief and indignation upon seeing this. Why? Because she's too weak. A white divine halo suddenly appeared above the ant tribe emperor's head, and a paramount aura began to proliferate forth. It looked down at the ant tribe army down below, and fell silent for a long while before a sinister expression suddenly appeared on its face. You're too weak. Such a weak tribe doesn't deserve to exist on the Tai Chu continent. Die! Boom, boom, boom. The anguished cries of the ant tribe reverberated throughout the entire continent. Chapter 2011. Within the easternmost region of the Tai Chu continent, within a sea of pure white light, a woman with perfect curves and a slender figure extended a slender finger and gently tapped open a ball of light. A massive image began to emerge from the ball of light, upon which an inky black ant tribe male appeared with a respectful expression. Behind him was a boundless expanse of white sand and yellow earth. Countless ant tribe corpses lay strewn across the ground, all of which had been devoured by countless demons of hell. The bloody aura of despair emanating from their bodies seemed to be able to pass through the image and reach the woman. Esteemed heavenly light goddess, the ant tribe army has been completely annihilated. The ant tribe man bowed respectfully. The white halo above his head was bubbling as if it was jumping in joy. He was the hope of the entire ant tribe, the ant tribe emperor. Well done, heavenly ant god. How many demons of hell are left? The light goddess asked with a smile. There were a total of 28 million demons of hell, but there are only 22 million left now. All of them have become more powerful after devouring the ant tribe corpses. The ant tribe male replied respectfully. Very good. Do you know what to do next? The light goddess asked. The ant tribe male smiled. Of course. The image was cut off. The ant tribe emperor, or in other words, the heavenly ant god, looked around at the bleak and bloody scenes unfolding around it. One ant after another had died a gruesome death, and the despair in their eyes was extremely terrifying. An extremely potent stench of blood wafted through the air within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. The ant tribe has been completely wiped out, right? The heavenly ant god smiled as if this had nothing to do with it. Several million ant tribe living beings had died at its hands, but it was completely unfazed. Such a trashy tribe doesn't deserve to exist in this world. The heavenly ant god stomped down on the head of an ant tribe powerful being, and the ant tribe powerful being's entire body spasmed, as if it was still conscious. Bam! A shock wave swept forth. Its head was crushed by the heavenly ant god Stomp. No, the ant tribe isn't completely wiped out. I am also an ant tribe member. From now on, the ant tribe will be the new ant tribe, a powerful and glorious ant tribe. The heavenly ant god smiled as it made its way forward. The hole behind it began to expand before a golden egg shot forth from within. PFFF, the egg crashed to the ground. However, this was not the end. The heavenly ant god's bottom was expanding incessantly. Puff, puff, puff. The heavenly ant god continued onward. An egg sprayed out with each step. This kind of confident and arrogant appearance caused the surrounding netherworld demons to feel deep veneration. The heavenly ant god was indeed the monarch of the ant tribe. However, it wasn't completely the emperor of the ant tribe. This was because the heavenly light goddess had personally bestowed upon it the paramount power of the ant tribe. From the moment it was born, it was the pinnacle of the ant tribe. Yes, in terms of power, it was a heavenly god. Furthermore, it was the second heavenly god in the world with a native life form and the power of a heavenly god. Even it didn't know how powerful such a heavenly god was, but it was certain that it had the confidence to destroy the human race, the kingdom of the 9 states. The heavenly ant god looked toward the north, and a sinister smile appeared on its inky black antennae. I'm here. The old ant tribe has been destroyed, and a new ant tribe has been born. This is a power that can dominate the entire continent. I will let you know what it means to be dominated by the ant tribe. Within the abyss of evil, this was the land that separated the kingdom of the 9 states from the ant tribe. Within the boundless abyss, there were many twisted, sinister devils. They were very different from the netherworld demons. The netherworld demons were bloodthirsty, while the sinister devils were perverts. Both their life force and consciousness were twisted, and they contained boundless negative emotions. Living beings with weak wills would even go insane if they were to approach them. The individual sinister devils were extremely powerful, and their starting power was comparable to that of the spirit-nurturing stage. They were active within the abyss of evil, and no one knew exactly how many of them there were. At this moment, the silent abyss of evil was suddenly bustling with activity. The blood-curdling cries of the sinister devils rang out incessantly. A heavenly god enshrouded in black shadows slowly walked deeper into the abyss of evil. There were tens of thousands of sinister devils trailing behind him. Roar! A sinister devil with a terrifying aura suddenly burst forth from within the boulder before pouncing toward the heavenly god with a sinister expression. The heavenly god extended a hand and made a pressing motion. The sinister devil's body froze in midair, and its twisted and crazed expression suddenly became even more twisted and crazed, as if it was being corroded by some kind of power. Fall. Abandon what you don't need. Reveal your true desires and completely release the evil in your heart. The heavenly god's voice was ethereal and deep. The sinister devil struggled madly, and its eyes gradually turned from red to pure black. Its aura became even more terrifying, and in the end its twisted expression gradually fell silent. Then a strange smile appeared on its face, and it silently followed behind the heavenly god, doing nothing else. The heavenly god didn't look at it and continued forward. Every sinister devil that pounced toward it would eventually follow behind it. Not only that, but all sinister devils within a radius of several hundred kilometers would also silently follow behind the heavenly god. The heavenly god continued to venture deeper into the abyss of evil, and more sinister devils followed behind it. 10,000, 100,000, a million. It was like the emperor of darkness. No matter where it went, all of the sinister devils would submit to it. As soon as its figure appeared, all of the sinister devils would bow down to it. I can't let you go any further. This is the end. A voice abruptly sounded. Immediately afterward, a man who was also enshrouded in darkness appeared before the heavenly god. He opened his eyes, which were as vast as the stars in the night sky. The heavenly god's footsteps faltered, and it surveyed the being before it with a curious smile. "Oh, there's a Tao integration stage living being here? Interesting, interesting. However, you dare to stand in my way." A sinister smile appeared on the heavenly god's face, and it spread open its arms as a paramount aura began to radiate outward. "Do you know who I am? I can sense degeneration and instincts from your body. You should be in charge of degeneration. So, should I address you as the heavenly fallen god?" The man asked in an indifferent voice. The heavenly god's arrogant expression faltered slightly. It clearly didn't expect the other party to be able to see through its identity. Even the dozen or so super mighty figures who had seen it in action on the Eastern Front didn't know the nature of its power. However, the man before it, "If you know who I am, then you should know that I can crush you as easily as crushing an ant. Hurry up and piss off." The heavenly fallen god spoke in an indifferent voice. "No." The man shook his head. "You're the one who should piss off. You're courting death." The heavenly fallen god suddenly pounced toward the man, and a black divine light revolved around his hand as he swatted it toward the man's face. "Then you can return to being a particle." However, just as the hand was about to strike the man's face, a black hand shot forth at an even faster speed, tearing through the darkness around the heavenly fallen god's body before abruptly pressing down upon his chest. Heaven-crushing technique 4. Palm of the heavenly Tao. Golden light pierced through the darkness, revealing the heavenly fallen god's horrified expression. The Tao realm true intent that threatened to shatter the entire world engulfed the heavenly fallen god like a raging wave. The palm continued onward, and the heavenly fallen god's chest caved in before being pulverized. Bam! Golden light exploded. Not only was the heavenly fallen god annihilated, but even the sinister devils behind the heavenly fallen god were also annihilated, leaving a trail of death in the abyss. Pitter-patter, pitter-patter. The sound of rocks tumbling down the abyss reverberated through the air. The man slowly withdrew his palm. The heavenly fallen god had already disappeared. He looked into the darkness in the distance and heaved a resigned sigh. "I know who you are, but you don't know who I am. Why don't you ask who I am?" Chapter 2012. Who are you? A hoarse and deep voice rang out. The fallen deity god flew out from the cave in the wall, clutching at his mangled chest. His inky black eyes seemed to be able to pierce through all darkness, and he saw the face of the man in the distance. Right now it was very angry, not only because it had been heavily injured by the sneak attack, but also because the palm just now had actually scattered its 100,000 evil devils. One had to know that it had only managed to gather 1,000,000 or so evil spirits after searching for so long. In the end, 1/10 of them had been slapped away by a single palm strike. This was clearly ruining its plans. The fallen deity god was extremely furious. It wanted to know the other party's identity and then cut him into 1,000 pieces. "My name is the Night Monarch," the man in the distance replied calmly. "I'm the Night Monarch, the heaven-crushing sect's #1 heavenly disciple." His introduction was very simple, but the fallen heavenly god's pupils contracted drastically. Heaven-crushing sect? The heaven-crushing sect again. Did the heaven-crushing sect only have this many freaks? The fallen heavenly god asked in a solemn voice. "Isn't the heaven-crushing sect's #1 heavenly disciple serving Demon Emperor see you? When did this Night Monarch appear? Who told you that there can only be one emperor's attendant?" Yidi laughed. The fallen deity god was rendered speechless. Invisible and strange energy waves began to emanate from its body. The black mist suddenly spread out in all directions like a raging flood. Within a radius of hundreds of miles, the underground rock layer began to turn into sand at a speed visible to the naked eye. All the surrounding evil spirits quickly distanced themselves from that dark shadow. The Night Monarch looked at the oncoming mist, and he took a light step forward. A translucent heaven-crushing wall materialized in front of him like an ice crystal, keeping the black mist at bay. "Very good. The Night Emperor, right? I will make you feel the deepest fear in life." The fallen deity gripped the void in his hand, and a golden long sword began to converge in his hand. Fallen dimensional sword. Rip. His body moved with the shadows, and with an extremely strange speed, he flashed in front of the Night Emperor and slashed down with his sword. When the golden sword struck the heaven-breaking wall, the heaven-breaking wall seemed to have encountered some kind of strange power. It twisted at an extremely fast speed and became flat. Finally, it was torn apart like a thin piece of paper. The knight, the arch, had already retreated rapidly when the fallen deity's attack was about to land. At this moment, wherever the golden blade passed, whether it was the void or the rock walls, they all became flat surfaces without any thickness. This scene caused his pupils to shrink abruptly. It wasn't energy, nor was it spatial energy. What kind of energy was this? Whoosh! Another sword pierced toward him. The knight, the arch, gripped the void with one hand, and a black, long sword appeared in his hand. Heaven-piercing darkness sword. The sword was imbued with extremely pure and powerful heaven-crushing true intent, and it ferociously slashed toward the heavenly god before it. The sword blade was imbued with immense power, and as it swept through the air, it even pulverized the rock walls for hundreds of kilometers underground. This sword strike was extremely powerful. However, strangely enough, not a single sound rang out when it collided with the dimensional corruption sword. The Night Monarch could only see his black sword deteriorating at a speed visible to the naked eye. As though it no longer belonged to this world, golden light flashed. The heaven-piercing darkness sword broke into two. Yidi's arm was also chopped off. The knight, the arch, retreated frantically with a horrified expression. He found that after his arm was chopped off, it became a flat surface without any thickness. This power could actually ignore energy. Wasn't this too against the rules? However, the only fortunate thing was that the power of the heaven-crushing true intent still penetrated the distorted golden long sword and blasted the fallen deity, God's body, tearing a hole in his chest. The heaven-crushing power created by Cyril and Chin is indeed powerful. When the Night Monarch saw this, he immediately knew how to deal with the fallen deity god. Should he use that move? That move was very likely to have a decisive effect. But if he used that move, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. The Night Monarch's eyes gradually became resolute as he looked at the dazed demons and the fearful and uneasy gazes in the darkness behind him. The task of restoring the demons to their original state had not been completed. These demons were all living humans, and he definitely couldn't let them be used by the heavenly gods. The fallen deity, God, continued to pounce toward the Night Monarch with the dimensional corruption sword in his hand. The Night Monarch's expression had already become very calm. He gripped the abyss with one hand. Sword, heaven-crushing ninth style, sword of the heavenly Tao. Boom! Within the deep, dark abyss, an extremely dazzling golden light suddenly soared into the sky. This light was even more dazzling than the sun, and it was as if it could pierce through all things. A sharp golden light suddenly soared into the sky from the massive rift between the ant tribe and the kingdom of the 9 states. The sword intent was vast and boundless, and no one knew where it came from or where it would end. When the golden sword projection fell, the entire abyss was transformed into a boundless sea of golden light. An indistinct wail of anguish sounded from within the abyss before it was instantly engulfed. At the eastern heavenly gate, a holy and noble woman stood silently within the sea of light. Her eyes suddenly opened as an expression of incredulity appeared on her face. The fallen deity is dead. In the land of eternal light, Cyril also opened his crimson eyes and looked toward the south with a complex expression. It was hard to tell whether it was joy or sorrow. The Night Monarch was forced to this extent. Which heavenly god was he trying to kill? At this moment, the youth in linen garments had already stepped out of the heaven-crushing, glazed palace. Chin, stop right there. If you go, This place will definitely be in grave danger." Cyril yelled. Chun Chen's footsteps faltered, and he clenched his fists tightly, but he didn't take another step in the end. At this moment, within the abyss of evil, the golden light had already dissipated. In the depths of the abyss, the night monarch half knelt on the ground and coughed up blood relentlessly. He paused for a moment before hurriedly melding into the darkness. In the next instant, he arrived on a vast plaza. There were over 2 million sinister devils standing silently on the plaza. Master Knight Monarch! It's Master Knight Monarch! All of the sinister devils began to speak. Upon closer inspection, one could see that aside from the fact that their bodies were pitch black, the sinister devils before them no longer had their twisted and crazed appearances, nor did they possess any explosive negative emotions. The Knight Monarch looked at the sinister devils before him with a bitter expression. He was only one step away. Next, I'm going to transfer all of you to a mystic realm. Remember not to wander around and use the mantra I taught you. He tore open a large, circular hole in the void. All of the sinister devils didn't ask why, and they obediently poured into the hole. The Knight Monarch was their supreme leader, and they firmly believed that the Knight Monarch wouldn't harm them, so they all entered the hole without any hesitation. He finally heaved a sigh of relief after seeing all of the sinister devils enter the hole. Within the abyss, the darkness and tranquility returned. In the silent environment, there was a long sigh. It's a pity that I won't be able to see all of you return to your human forms in the sky. A boundless, pure white light fell. The abyss became a boundless sea of light again. This time, the light permeated even more thoroughly and was even more terrifying. The light illuminated every corner of the abyss. Every space, every living being, and everything had nowhere to hide under the light. The Knight Monarch saw an extremely perfect woman imbued with boundless hope appear before him. "You, return to the embrace of the light," the woman said indifferently. "Huh." The Knight Monarch chuckled disdainfully. "Hope? Light? It's all **T. Boundless darkness surged forth from the Knight Monarch's body, and the power of his Tian Ming Dao physique was unleashed to the extreme. It was as if he was going to engulf all of the light before his eyes as he stabbed his black sword toward the woman before him. The woman's expression didn't change as she pointed a finger toward him. The darkness that was surging violently as if it wanted to destroy and devour everything vanished in an instant. In the southern region of the Kingdom of the 9 States, the great Tao of heaven and earth began to wail with grief. It was clearly daytime, but night had suddenly fallen. Boundless grief welled up in the hearts of all living beings. Heaven and earth mourned the death of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure. Chapter 2013. Boom, boom, boom. The great path of heaven and earth trembled and wailed. Qiuguang City in the Gem State of the Kingdom of the 9 States. The southern front was where the 9 States coalition army was stationed. With the southern Heavenly Gate destroyed, there were only 1 million soldiers stationed at the southern line. They had thought that today would be another peaceful day, but the sky unexpectedly darkened, followed by endless sorrow in their hearts. These soldiers were all experienced soldiers, and they knew that this was a phenomenon that would result from the death of a Tao integration stage mighty figure. However, there was no battle taking place here. So how could a Tao integration stage mighty figure have fallen? In an instant, the 1,000,000-strong army surged onto the city walls and entered a state of battle. Even the Great City Barrier Array was activated, fearing that the enemy would suddenly appear. At the same time, Heavenly River State, Autumn Leaf City, in a city not far from the abyss of evil, the tens of thousands of soldiers looked at the horde of demons of the netherworld that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, and their legs couldn't help but go soft. The eyes of these netherworld demons were all glowing red, and they looked savage and violent. They were even more terrifying than the ant race of the past. Most importantly, there were so many of them that it made one feel despair. They couldn't even count how many there were. And in any case, The entire white desert was filled with their figures. "Lord, Thunder God, they won't come, right?" a soldier said with trembling legs. The old general of the celestial court, the Thunder God, who was holding the Thunder God hammer and the Thunder immortal nail, shook his head and said, "The abyss of evil is a natural moat. They can't cross it, so it doesn't matter how many of them there are." As soon as he finished speaking, the earth suddenly shook violently. Boom, boom, boom. The huge crack that stretched for hundreds of thousands of miles shook violently, and then began to close at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was like a scar on the earth, becoming smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller, until it finally healed. In the end, the abyss of evil, which had existed for tens of thousands of years, disappeared under the watchful eyes of the tens of thousands of guards. The abyss crack had become flat ground. Thunder God. Who can tell me what just happened? The tens of thousands of soldiers were dumbfounded. They felt like they were dreaming. It can only be the heavenly earth God. The lightning matriarch said in a trembling voice, "Hurry! Contact the Eastern Defense Army, requesting backup." At this time, the countless demons of the netherworld had already pounced towards Autumn Light City. The tens of thousands of soldiers felt a chill down their spines. They knew that even if the Eastern Front received the news, it would be too late and they wouldn't be able to get here in time. All of them would perish here, and the human race in the southern region of the Kingdom of the Nine States would also be doomed in the boundless sea of light at the eastern heavenly gate. The heavenly light goddess reappeared. She had only just landed on the ground when she discovered heavenly godling, Hua, standing off to the side with his head lowered in a respectful manner. Heavenly light goddess, the heaven-crushing sect, just fired a heaven-crushing spirit us. We weren't able to block it. Heavenly goddess Ling, Hua bit down on her lower lip in self-reproach. The heavenly light goddess seemed to have predicted this. How many did you lose? More than half of the heavenly human tribe army stationed at the eastern heavenly gate have perished. Only 5 million remain, heavenly godling Hua said. The heavenly light goddess lips twitched imperceptibly. How could they bear to reduce such a small number of troops? Although she knew that the heaven-crushing sect would definitely launch an attack while she wasn't present, she didn't expect them to be so vicious. "Forget it. You can go now," the Radiance God said. "Yes." Heavenly Godling, Hua, left on his folding fan. The heavenly light goddess was the only one left in the sea of light again. The night monarch. The heavenly light goddess murmured to herself, "The heaven-crushing sect sure is full of talented people. You killed the fallen heavenly god and foiled my sinister plan, using 5 million heavenly human tribe soldiers in exchange for your life. It's worth it." Her right hand hung down and slowly opened. In the center of her smooth, jade-like palm, there was a black crack that was faintly flickering and releasing a dark aura. In the southern region of the Kingdom of the Nine States, Autumn Leaf City, despair engulfed all of the soldiers defending the city. The heavenly ant god hovered in midair at the center of the 20 million strong army of hell demons with a crazed and bloodthirsty expression in his eyes. "Come, let's sacrifice Autumn Leaf City and devour all of the humans we see. Our power will shake the entire continent. Howl, 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 crackle, crackle." Huff, 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 the sinister devils howled as they pounced toward the city with sinister expressions. The tens of thousands of soldiers defending Autumn Leaf City also sprang into action. "Hurry! Get into formation! Counterattack!" A red city protection formation rose up from the ground. Rays of dazzling magical light burst forth from his body. The spell techniques bombarded the army of demons of the netherworld, and balls of flames exploded, instantly killing over 1,000 demons of the netherworld. However, this number didn't even make a ripple in the face of the 20 million strong army of hell demons. How weak! Humans are also a weak and lowly race. They don't deserve to exist in this world. A cruel smile appeared on the heavenly ant god's face. "I'll give you 2 minutes to destroy this human army." In the heavenly ant god's eyes, this city's defenses were so weak that it couldn't even be bothered to attack. Boom, boom, boom. The hell demons crashed into the city protection formation, causing it to tremor violently. Cracks began to appear all over its surface, and it looked as if it were about to crumble at any moment. As soon as the formation was broken, it would spell doom for the human army defending Autumn Leaf City. Whoosh! A 10,000-legged centipede demon's head began to break through the array. Its head stretched into the array, and its pale face grinned. The mouths on its tens of thousands of feet kept gnawing at the array. When the guards saw this monster, they couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. The thunder god abruptly rose into the air before swinging his lightning divine hammer toward the lightning immortal nail. Boom! An extremely powerful bolt of lightning tore through the void and struck the centipede demon's head. Wah! The centipede demon's head was charred black and it recoiled in pain. However, right at this moment, over 100 hell demons with auras similar to the centipede demon crashed viciously into the formation, instantly shattering it. "It's over." The thunder god's hammer trembled uncontrollably upon seeing this. He had initially thought that this was a retirement post, and he had been assigned to guard this place. Now, look at what kind of F***king enemies he had encountered. He was the most powerful being among the city guards, and there were over 100 enemies who were no less powerful than him, not to mention the heavenly ant god. "It's over." The heavenly ant god chuckled before pulling out another egg in celebration. "Star, great annihilation cannon." A crisp female voice suddenly reverberated throughout heaven and earth. A starry sky suddenly descended from the sky. A purple galaxy of stars imbued with unimaginable power crashed down upon the earth. Rumble! The earth was torn open, and all of the powerful hell demons didn't even have a chance to react before they were engulfed by the galaxy of stars, upon which their bodies were incinerated into nothingness. Immediately afterward, a massive battleship several hundred kilometers in length appeared from within the galaxy of stars. The thunder god's body trembled violently as he let loose a cry of surprise. This is the 4-9 Immortal Sect's Starfire battleship. 4-9 Immortal Sect! My God, it's the 4-9 Immortal Sect reinforcements. The words for 9 Immortal Sect seemed to possess some sort of magical power, and the Kingdom of the 9 States United Army was suddenly reignited as tears of excitement welled up in their eyes. "Looks like we made it just in time." Xiao Hong, who was dressed in a fiery red dress, exhaled softly as she stood on the battleship. She was so beautiful that she could cause the downfall of nations and people. Big Brother and really is omniscient. If he hadn't called us here in advance, the southern region of the Kingdom of the 9 States might really have fallen. Woof! Dubai had an expression of reverence on his face. Four-word idiom, four-word idiom, four-word idiom. Shui Zhantian's idiom had been stolen, and he was struggling to survive. Now, let's show them the true power of our 4-9 Immortal Sect. Xian Yuan Chung spread open his arms, and a series of golden bullets appear behind him. The heavenly ant god's expression shifted slightly as he looked at the figures on the battleship. For 9 Immortal Sect? The number 1 power in the Kingdom of the 9 States? So be it, we'll crush you here and trample over your dead bodies. That way, the Kingdom of the 9 States will be ours. The heavenly ant god pointed a finger forward, and countless hell demons rose into the air before pouncing toward the Starfire battleship. Chapter 2014. Several million demons of hell had wings, and they rose into the air, obscuring the entire sky as they surrounded the Starfire battleship in the sky. Over 100 powerful demons of hell, with combat prowess comparable to Return to Void Stage, celestial immortals pounced toward the battleship without any fear on their faces. Star-shattering cannon, fire! Lu Qianhuan's voice sounded. Over 100 cannon barrels extended from both sides of the battleship, unleashing devastating cannon blasts that tore through the sky. Xian Yuancheng leaped down from the battleship. He wore a flowing white robe, and his long black hair flowed behind him. He spread open his arms, and his eyes were as bright as the stars. His peerlessly handsome features were imbued with a cold and indifferent expression. Countless balls of golden light suddenly appeared behind him before crashing down in all directions. Myriad spirit, tai chi, heaven-crushing, consecutive explosions. Boom, boom, boom. A series of terrifying explosions erupted from the ground. Energy exploded to the extreme, destroying everything in the surrounding area. A dozen or so mushroom clouds rose up from the ground as tens of thousands of demons of hell were blasted to death. All of the soldiers in the city tried their best to maintain the formation and keep the shock waves at bay. It's the true nuclear, celestial immortal. My God, this power is comparable to that of a Tao integration stage super mighty figure. It's not just comparable, it's even more powerful than the average Tao integration stage super mighty figure. Just as all of the soldiers were discussing spiritedly among themselves, the demons of hell had also discovered the threat that Xian Yuancheng posed. Soon, a total of 6 returned to void stage demons pounced toward Xian Yuancheng in an attempt to stop him from wreaking havoc on the city. A demon of hell that resembled a moth but had 8 scythe-like arms was the fastest among them. Its sharp scythe-like arms sliced through the air, causing the space around it to distort as it attempted to slice through Xian Yuancheng's head. However, Xian Yuancheng had no intention of defending himself. Instead, he continued to accumulate power in preparation for a second round of explosions. It was very close. There were only a few hundred meters left. At this moment, a faintly discernible black line shot above the moth. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a graceful girl suddenly appeared, holding a silver-white dagger in her hand, drawing a snow-white trail in the void. Only then did the moth demon react. It wanted to raise its 8 arms to attack, but its body suddenly split in half from the middle, and blood splattered across the sky. Hiss! It screamed and fell. A strange darkness appeared around its wound and swallowed its body. Before it could completely fall to the ground, it was swallowed by the darkness. This young woman was none other than Yi Ling, who had attained the divine Tao. When this netherworld demon died, her body flashed to another netherworld demon's body, like a black light, and then with another move, she chopped off its head. Yi Ling's footsteps didn't stop, and she moved like a bolt of lightning. Her slim and slender figure continued to flash at a speed that was incomprehensible to the demons of the netherworld, and she chopped a fiendish python that was burning with dark flames into 9 pieces. After that, she continued to leap toward the 4th demon of the netherworld. Her speed was simply too fast. Before the 6th return to void stage demons of the netherworld had a chance to attack Xian Yuancheng, 4 of them had already been slain. The other 2 sinister devils thought that they could attack Xian Yuancheng on their own, but a beautiful woman in a palatial dress who was as beautiful as a celestial maiden waved her hand, and a blue crescent moon sliced the 2 sinister devils cleanly in half. She was none other than Su Qianyan, who was also known as Celestial Immortal Setting Moon. With the protection of 2 beautiful women, Xian Yuancheng could be said to have reached the pinnacle of cultivation, and he was still able to unleash his explosive techniques to his heart's content. Countless sinister devils near Autumn Leaf City were instantly blasted to smithereens. A huge white dog snuck past the encirclement of the return to void stage demons and onto the battlefield down below, where began a frenzied battle against the low-rank demons. Bai had never been afraid of anyone, whether it was in terms of ferocity, arrogance, or bullying. Shui Zhantian was a bit more powerful, and he continued to ram his way through the return to void stage demons in an attempt to ram the heavenly ant god to death. At the same time, a series of return to void stage mighty figures in crimson robes leaped down from the battleships. There were about a dozen of them, and all of them were top-rate return to Void Stage powerful beings. Blood Sky Dragon, Blood Demon Falcon, Blood Demon God, and all types of earth-shattering mystic techniques were unleashed. Many of the netherworld demons' bodies were twisted and contorted as blood flowed from their bodies, having clearly been extracted. Sun Yulua and Yao Mingxi, the two top-rate sword immortals, transformed into the most powerful beings in the world of slaughter and engaged in battle with the netherworld demons. On the defensive line, closest to Autumn Leaf City, heaven and earth were transformed into a blizzard. All of the demons of hell that approached Autumn Leaf City would slow down, and the power of frost would become more and more powerful. The weaker ones would be frozen to death on the spot, while the more powerful ones would be slowed down and killed by the return to Void Stage snow maidens within the city. The heavenly ant god's expression shifted again and again upon seeing this. It had thought that the 4-9 Immortal sect would be able to crush the number 1 sect of the Kingdom of the 9 States with over 100 return to Void Stage demons. However, it didn't think that the 4-9 Immortal sect would be so powerful despite their small numbers. They were like an unstoppable divine sword that tore through the vast army of demons. If things continued like this, no matter how many netherworld demons there were, they wouldn't be able to kill them all. Looks like the humans aren't all trash after all. You should be proud that you were able to force me to use this trump card. The heavenly ant god's eyes narrowed as it made up its mind, and a brilliant light erupted from its divine halo. This battle is going to be the first battle of the new ant tribe, as well as the first battle that will allow the ant tribe to stand at the pinnacle of this world. Come out, my children! Bam, bam, bam. The eggshell that the heavenly ant god had dragged out of the ground along with the army suddenly exploded. 36 ant tribe cultivators with terrifying auras soared into the sky, causing the entire space between heaven and earth to tremor violently. All of the 4-9 Immortal sect powerful beings' expressions shifted upon seeing these ant tribe cultivators. They discovered that all of the ant tribe cultivators in the sky had modeled divine halos above their heads. These divine halos exuded a paramount aura. This was the aura of a heavenly god. 36 heavenly gods. Tang Shimin's legs almost gave out from under him, and he almost fell from the sky with a horrified expression. No way. Their auras are very similar to those of the heavenly gods, and they also possess the power of divine halos. However, their auras aren't powerful enough, so they're only inferior versions of the heavenly gods. In terms of power, they're probably only comparable to Tao integration initial stage beings. Tang Shimin's legs continued to give out from under him. 36 Tao integration initial stage beings? Isn't that terrifying? Just what kind of concept is this? It was no wonder that Tang Shimin was so panicked. One had to realize that there were only about half of this number of Tao integration stage beings in the entire kingdom of the 9 states. The appearance of the 36 ant tribe cultivators with divine halos above their heads instantly shocked everyone present. The kingdom of the 9 states united army was about to suffocate from the terrifying auras emanating from their bodies. Just what kind of terrifying enemies were they facing? All of the 4-9 Immortal sect cultivators wore different expressions. This is more like what a paramount heavenly god should be capable of. Yi Ling nodded at the sight of the ant tribe powerful beings nearby, and she was already getting a little excited. All of the members of the new ant tribe were powerful enough to crush the most powerful beings in the ant tribe, so it was no wonder that the heavenly ant god would say that the ant tribe was trash. The 36 ants looked at the battlefield with arrogant expressions, as if they did not care about anything at all. Their expressions were indifferent, and they exuded boundless majesty. The heavenly ant god was very pleased with these children, and it waved a finger at the 4-9 Immortal sect powerful beings. Go, children! Kill all of these weak humans. Chapter 2015. After casually slaying a return to Void Stage demon, Yiling turned toward the heavenly ant god standing proudly in the distance with a cold light in her eyes. The heavenly ant god was the key to this entire battlefield. Setting aside the heavenly ant god's power, just the fact that it could give birth to ants with divine halos was already extremely terrifying. After all, how long had it only been since it had appeared? There were now 36 divine halo ants, and this definitely wasn't the final number. If it was given time, it could continue to give birth. Boom! The Starfire battleship unleashed another Starfire annihilation cannon. A galaxy of destruction tore through the air toward the heavenly ant god. It was quite clear that Lu Qianhuan had also discovered that destroying the heavenly ant god was the key. The heavenly ant god remained completely unmoved in the face of the oncoming galaxy of destruction. The 5 ants with divine halos above their heads stepped forward before extending their hands toward the purple galaxy of destruction. Immediately afterward, a pink, crystalline, triangular barrier materialized in the air before them. The galaxy of destruction crashed into the triangular barrier, but it was as if it had encountered the hardest rock in the world. The galaxy of destruction was split down the middle before flying off into the distance. They blocked it. Lu Qianhuan was a little incredulous. She knew just how terrifying the Starfire battleship's cannons were. Weaker Dao integration stage mighty figures could even be insta-killed by a single cannon blast. But it had been blocked by 5 ants? One had to realize that there were 36 of them. All of the soldiers on the battlefield were already panicking upon seeing this, as if they were plunged into despair again. The Starfire battleship could be said to be their most lethal weapon. Even the 5 ants were able to keep it at bay. So who was going to stop the 31 ants? Who could stop them? At this moment, a white dress fluttered in the wind on the deck of the Starfire battleship. Bai Ling wore a pair of small and exquisite glasses, and a sharp light flashed through her eyes as she said in an indifferent voice, "The energy barrier constructed by the enemy is imbued with the power of laws. This type of power is paramount, and it possesses absolute authority and command. It is indeed very similar to the powers of the heavenly gods. Is there any way to counter them?" Zhou Yu was dressed in a white work uniform. The gigantic mechanical core floated in front of him as he looked into the distance with a serious expression. Boom! At this moment, a black lightning spear over 100,000 feet in length suddenly tore through the air. The Starfire battleship instantly activated its ion deprivation barrier to block the black lightning spear. Bai Ling stood at the front of the battleship and looked on silently at the lightning spear, which was still unable to advance any further. The thunder spear emitted a sharp and ear-piercing sound. Streaks of split lightning were like monsters baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, looking particularly ferocious. An ant tribe powerful being with lightning revolving around its body and a divine halo above its head had already appeared in front of the Starfire battleship. It crossed its arms over its chest and looked at Bai Ling with a disdainful and provocative expression. Right at this moment, a series of terrifying auras began to rapidly approach the Starfire battleship. What kind of experience would it be to have 36 enemies with the aura of heavenly gods pouncing at him at the same time? A smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. Seeing as the main component of their power is the power of the heavenly gods, then let's deal with them the same way we dealt with the heavenly gods. We'll have to use our trump cards in advance. Zhou Yu, unleash the Heaven Rising Ball, Bai Ling instructed. Zhou Yu's expression changed drastically upon hearing this. This was the ultimate weapon of the Purple Star Pavilion, and it could only be used once. Unless the entire clan was in dire straits, it definitely couldn't be used. Was the situation already this serious? He looked at the 36 ant tribe powerful beings, and a sense of enlightenment welled up in his heart. If he left them alone, they really did have the power to massacre the entire kingdom of the 9 states. Outside the Starfire battleship, explosions erupted incessantly. The 36 ant tribe powerful beings had already surrounded the Starfire battleship and were unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks. Wind, rain, lightning, lethal poison, scorching flames, sabers, swords, spears, halberds. The Starfire battleship's defensive barrier was shattered, but it was quickly repaired before it was shattered again. Big sister Bai, hurry up and retaliate. The battleship's energy expenditure has skyrocketed, and it's about to run out of energy. Lu Qianhuan's urgent voice sounded. Bai Ling turned to Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu's movements were very quick, and he quickly tapped his fingers in the air. The mechanical ball glowed with a brilliant light before spitting out a semi-transparent ball that shot into the sky. The small ball quickly unfurled in the air, and countless black lines shot forth before converging to form a cage, constructed from black lines that enshrouded all of the ant tribe powerful beings. Some of the powerful beings were very alert, and they immediately unleashed attacks toward the small ball in the air. Heaven Rising Ball, activate! Zhou Yu let loose a clear cry as a peculiar ripple proliferated forth from the black lines. The scenes outside the cage suddenly became blurry and indistinct, as if they were illusory and unreal. At the same time, the scenes within the cage also became blurry and illusory, as if they were in a completely different world. Boom, 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 boundless powers of the heavenly gods exploded upon the small ball, but it remained completely unmoved. Immediately afterward, all of the ant tribe powerful beings felt as if they were becoming extremely feeble, as if the sky and the heavenly Tao were moving further and further away from them. Their connection to the paramount heavenly gods gradually disappeared. What's going on? The ant tribe powerful being that wielded lightning was astonished. Heaven rising. Heaven rising naturally means that everything within this space will be completely separated from the heavens. For paramount heavenly gods, this isn't enough to separate them from the heavens. But for half-completed heavenly gods like you, the separation rate is as high as 60%. Countless streams of information flashed through Bai Ling's eyes as a faint smile appeared on her face. All of the other ant tribe powerful beings' expressions shifted drastically upon hearing this. They knew that Bai Ling wasn't lying. They really could sense that the power within their bodies was rapidly depleting. At this moment, the ant tribe powerful being that wielded lightning immediately decided to retreat. Bai Ling extended a hand toward the ant tribe powerful being, upon which countless extremely dense energy threads suddenly shot forth from the air, binding the ant tribe powerful being's limbs, head, tail, antennae, as well as all of its joints. A smile appeared on the woman's face as she pulled out a small silver handgun and aimed it at the ant tribe powerful being's head. You sure were arrogant just then. The ant tribe powerful being was just about to open its mouth with shock and horror on its face. Bam! A bullet shot forth from the small silver handgun. The bullet was very small, and it wasn't very powerful either. However, when it struck the ant tribe powerful being's head, its head exploded like a watermelon, and even the divine halo above its head was instantly pulverized into dust. Gasp! All of the living beings present were dumbstruck. When the 36 new ant tribe powerful beings with divine halos above their heads had first appeared, they were extremely powerful and fearsome. However, the first one to perish was one of them. The heavenly ant god's expression had also become extremely dark upon seeing this. The new ant tribe was its pride, yet one of them had perished first. Wasn't this a slap to the face? No, this cage is too tough. We can't break through it. Let's attack the battleship together. It's about to run out of energy. That's right, the battleship is the core of the ant tribe. They don't have enough combat prowess, so we'll take this opportunity to kill them, and this cage will become meaningless. The 35 new ant tribe powerful beings quickly came to a consensus and joined forces to attack the Starfire battleship. At this moment, Bai Ling suddenly smiled. Who says we don't have enough combat prowess? Seeing as you've revealed all of your trump cards, there's no point in hiding anymore. Come on out. It's time for us to display the true power of our sect. Chapter 2016. A hatch on the Starfire battleship suddenly opened. Immediately afterward, 2 gargantuan black dragons flew out from the hatch. Their bodies were tens of thousands of feet in length, and their scales were extremely tough. They charged through the onslaught of attacks from the ant tribe and tore through the ant tribe's battle formation. Those are the 2 true dragons of the 4-9 immortal sect. When the guards saw this scene, they cried out in excitement and fell into ecstasy. That's great! I didn't expect them to come. They had thought that the Tao integration stage super mighty figures would still be stationed on the Eastern Front. Could it be that the 4-9 immortal sect had anticipated that their enemies would be extremely powerful? Maintain formation. Retaliate. There are only 2 Tao integration stage super mighty figures. After a brief moment of panic, all of the ant tribe cultivators began to retaliate. However, in the next instant, who said there were only 2 Tao integration stage super mighty figures? A bloodthirsty voice suddenly erupted. Immediately afterward, a Kirin with crimson energy revolving around its body leaped out from the deck of the ship before transforming into a streak of crimson light and pouncing toward a sword-wielding ant tribe cultivator. The ant tribe cultivator hurriedly slashed its swords toward the Kirin at the same time. Heaven-crushing Kirin. The crimson Kirin's claws transformed into a streak of crimson light that tore the ant tribe cultivator's swords and body to shreds. Dongfang Zhuangshi was a super mighty figure at the Tao integration pinnacle stage, and he was able to easily crush a Tao integration initial stage super mighty figure. Immediately afterward, divine flames engulfed the entire sky. A regal and holy phoenix appeared in the battlefield with boundless flames swirling around its wings, and the divine flames converged to form a storm that forced back several ant tribe powerful beings. 2 blue figures tore through the air. The great empress of the snow tribe broke through the ant tribe's heavenly fire defense and slammed a palm toward the ant tribe cultivator's head, shattering its body like ice shards. Shangguan Yi was even more direct as she plunged her body into the ant tribe's battle formation like a sharp sword. The ice matriarch's unique frost power erupted, freezing 1 ant tribe cultivator to death and inflicting frostbite on 3 others. The kingdom of the 9 states united army above Autumn Leaf City was completely dumbstruck as they looked on at the Tao integration stage super mighty figures of the 4-9 immortal sect. Xiao Zhe, Xiao Tu, Little Huang, Dongfang Zhuangshi, the great empress of the snow tribe, Shangguan Yi. All 6 Tao integration stage super mighty figures of the 4-9 immortal sect had appeared. Each and every one of them was a Tao integration stage super mighty figure, and it could be said that this was a one-sided massacre against the weakened ant tribe. The heavenly ant god was no longer able to remain calm. The 4-9 immortal sect had so many powerful cultivators. Was this the true power of the number 1 sect in the kingdom of the 9 states? If Bai Ling hadn't unleashed her heaven rising ball, then the 36 ant tribe would have been able to hold their own against the 4-9 immortal sect. However, once the heaven rising ball was unleashed, the ant tribe was completely defenseless. Is this all part of your plan? You're purposely hiding to lure me into unleashing my trump card so that you can kill me all at once. The heavenly ant god gritted its teeth with a dark expression. It knew that if it knew the exact situation of the 4-9 immortal sects, most powerful cultivators in advance, it definitely wouldn't allow the new ant tribe to fight them head-on. Perhaps it would even retreat and observe from the sidelines. Everything in front of him was all part of that vicious woman's plan. He had been far too careless. He had underestimated the 4-9 immortal sect. The heavenly ant god only had 2 choices now. The first was to fight them head-on, and the second was to immediately retreat and disregard the lives of the new ant tribe. Logic told it that the safest choice was to immediately retreat. After learning about their enemies' trump cards, they would be able to make ample preparations before engaging in battle. The new ant tribe could be reborn even if they were wiped out. If it chose to fight them head-on, there was a chance that it would lose. The best choice was actually right before its eyes. However, when the heavenly ant god looked at the new ant tribe being slaughtered one after another, as well as the cheering and elated human army of Autumn Leaf City, its entire body trembled with rage and humiliation. This was its first battle, the first battle of the new ant tribe, and it was extremely important. They were supposed to massacre the entire kingdom of the 9 states, but in the end they couldn't even take down a single human city? And the entire new ant tribe was going to be wiped out? No, that was far too humiliating. The heavenly ant god would never allow such a failure to occur. It was not an emotionless heavenly god. On the contrary, it was the combination of the life force and the power of the heavenly gods of the ant tribe, so it possessed an abundance of emotions. These emotions made it unable to accept this humiliation. Whoosh! Its body transformed into an inky black streak of light that abruptly hurtled toward the heavenly ball in the sky. Fight! As long as they could destroy the heavenly ball, they would be able to turn the tables. Boom! At this moment, the Starfire battleship unleashed a Starfire annihilation cannon toward the oncoming heavenly ant god. Myriad ants' heavenly corrosion. The heavenly ant god pushed a hand through the air at the sight of the oncoming cannon blast, upon which a black mist erupted from its palm before flying toward the purple galaxy of energy like a dragon. The mighty purple galaxy of energy was reduced to a hole right down the middle by the black mist. The energy wasn't dispelled or diverted. Instead, it was devoured by the black mist. That's right, the heavenly ant god's black mist was actually countless tiny heavenly Tao ants with the most terrifying, penetrative, and engulfing abilities. They could bite through anything that appeared to be the most powerful and sturdiest thing, and they could bite through not only physical objects, but also Tao techniques and energy as well. The Starfire annihilation cannon was completely engulfed by the countless tiny ants, and it continued onward toward the heavenly ball, clearly trying to devour it as well. Unleash all of your attacks. Extreme kinetic energy, shattering stars. Lu Qianhuan roared. Boom! An inky black ball of metal suddenly blasted forth from the Starfire battleship's main cannon. This ball possessed a speed of 1/10 the speed of light, which was a terrifying speed and extreme mass, which represented extreme kinetic energy. This was the kind of power that could destroy, or even destroy, an entire planet with a single blast. The heavenly Tao ants released by the heavenly ant god bit down on the metal ball, but they had only managed to leave a few cracks in the metal ball before it had already reached the heavenly ant god. The heavenly ant god's fist crashed into the metal ball, and a series of ghastly rifts appeared in the space within a radius of over 500 kilometers. The heavenly ant god had another characteristic of the ant tribe, which was that it was extremely strong. In terms of pure strength, it had never feared anyone. However, at this moment, it could clearly hear the sound of its own arm being shattered. Immediately after, the black ball began to bend its arm, and then heavily smashed into its body, causing its body to distort and flatten. Then it rolled all the way into the distance. Humph! Who gave you the confidence to defend yourself against my star-shattering cannon? Just wait and be crushed. A smug smile appeared on Lu Qianhuan's face. No one could compare to her when it came to operating the Starfire battleship. After learning about the heavenly ant god's special characteristic, she had immediately switched to a different method of attack, and it appeared that her decision was indeed very effective. The heavenly ant god was blasted back over 1,000 kilometers by the black ball before finally coming to a halt. Its entire body was in excruciating pain, and it threw up an involuntary mouthful of blood. Not only did this ball possess extreme kinetic energy, but it also possessed an extremely pure and terrifying heaven-crushing power, which was why it was able to break through its heavenly god defenses and severely wound it. However, it didn't understand how heaven-crushing power could be injected into a lifeless battleship. This was way too advanced. The heavenly ant god didn't think that a heavenly god like itself would be wounded by a battleship. This made it feel extremely ashamed once again. However, it also completely calmed down after being smashed into the battleship. It had to admit that the 4-9 Immortal sect was far too powerful. Should I run? the heavenly ant god began to retreat. Chapter 2017. The heavenly ant god knew that if it continued to fight to the death, it would most likely die as well. It was most proud of its fertility, not its fighting prowess. Everyone had witnessed just how powerful the ant tribe it gave birth to was. Each and every one of them was comparable to a Tao integration initial stage, Cultivator. Once it gave birth to a complete ant tribe, it wouldn't even need a lot of them. Just 100 new ant tribes would be enough to trample over the entire kingdom of the 9 states. Even if the heavenly light goddess was in a hurry, she didn't have to flatten the kingdom of the 9 states within a day or two, right? Only 18 of the 36 new ant tribes were left, and they were basically going to be wiped out. However, there were still more than 10 million 9 Hells demons. These troops were very important, and it could still make good use of them. The heavenly ant god made a decision, and it raised its feelers toward the sky before unleashing bursts of energy, fluctuations toward the battlefield in the distance. Strange fluctuations spread to every corner of the battlefield. The netherworld demon's crazed and savage face suddenly froze, and then it turned around and ran into the distance with great tacit understanding. All of the 4-9 Immortals sect, powerful beings, faltered upon seeing this. Was the enemy trying to escape? So decisive! Bai Ling immediately yelled, "Be careful, Blood Pavilion! I'm about to unleash the Poison Lord Bomb." As soon as he said this, the faces of the Blood clan members, who had been fighting fiercely just a moment ago, suddenly changed. They revealed looks of horror, and all fled into the defensive formation of Autumn Leaf City, the god of thunder and goddess of lightning, as well as the tens of thousands of city guards, looked at Cassidy and the others with bewildered expressions on their faces. Their faces were filled with fear and dread, but their eyes were filled with endless passion and yearning. It was as if 2 people were showing 2 completely different expressions, but they appeared on the same person's face. People who didn't know better would think that they were schizophrenic. At this moment, Bai Ling, who was standing at the forefront of the Starfire battleship, had already pulled out a syringe that was as tall as 2 grown men from her storage ring. This syringe was filled with bright red blood. Master Poison Bomb launch. Bai Ling grabbed the syringe in her hand and abruptly tossed it into the distance. The syringe streaked across the sky like a meteor rocket, finally exploding in the center of the battlefield. Countless bloody mists filled the air. Rumble! It was also at this moment that the atmosphere changed. Dark clouds suddenly covered the sky, and there was a faint red mist flowing through the dark clouds. The scale of this phenomenon was very large, covering a battlefield with a radius of more than 1,000 miles. The netherworld demons were still fleeing without any regard for anything, and they didn't care about what was in the sky at all. At this moment, the sky suddenly began to rain. Some of the wary returned to void stage demons of hell unleashed spatial barriers to defend themselves, but after discovering that this was just a normal storm, they immediately canceled their spatial powers and focused all of their attention on fleeing. The rain dripped onto their wounds and seeped into their skin. The heavenly ant god instinctively felt like something was amiss upon seeing this. Why did she have to create a storm? That sinister woman definitely wouldn't do something useless. At this time, some of the weaker 9 Hells demons suddenly tumbled to the ground and began to struggle in pain. Their bodies emitted a black aura, and their vitality began to rapidly dissipate. As soon as the situation occurred, a large number of netherworld demons started to feel uncomfortable. The heavenly ant god's expression shifted drastically as he roared, "There's poison in the rain! Quick, cast a spell to block the rain." However, it was all too late. Millions of netherworld demons fell to the ground, howling and struggling. The evil demons, flying in the sky, fell to the ground like birds with broken wings. Some unlucky ones directly smashed the evil demons, running on the ground to death. Some of the more powerful evil demons hurriedly unleashed spell techniques to keep the rain at bay. However, all of the netherworld demons present had been drenched in the rain, so the rain had already seeped into their bodies. Boom, 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 millions of netherworld demons fell to the ground again. In the end, even the return to void stage mighty figures of netherworld demons of hell were howling with anguish as they fell to the ground, as if they had been afflicted by some kind of lethal poison. In the end, not a single one of the netherworld demon army of over 10 million was left standing. One life after another was being lost, and one powerful being after another fell. The heavenly ant god stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before its eyes, and its mind went completely blank. Everything that was unfolding before its eyes had already transcended beyond the scope of its understanding. What was going on? Why did the netherworld demons of hell become like this after being drenched in the rain? The heavenly ant god had detected these rain ants with its divine sense to find that they clearly didn't contain any energy. So how did all of them get poisoned? A thought suddenly occurred to it. Prior to the rain, there had been a cloud of blood mist exploding in the sky, and a small amount of blood had seeped into the dark clouds. Its lips twitched involuntarily as it looked at the torrential rain that stretched for over 500 kilometers. Could it be that the blood was poisonous? But there was only the volume of a single syringe of blood. It had already been diluted countless times by the rain. So how was it able to poison an army of over 10 million demons to death? Even returned to void stage demons of hell were poisoned? Just how poisonous did this blood have to be able to do this? The heavenly ant god was struck by a sense of shock, and it was in a daze. A faint smile appeared on Bai Ling's face as she looked at all of the fallen demons. As expected, and Lin's blood did not disappoint me. That's right, this poison lord bomb had been infused within Lin's blood. Ever since Lin progressed to the return to void pinnacle stage, even Cassidy and the others didn't dare to drink Lin's blood anymore. His blood had already become the most poisonous substance in this world. Back on the Zhanqi continent, Lin had discovered that not only could his blood poison the blood tribe, but could also poison the demons of hell as well. If his blood could be used on the battlefield, it would be extremely useful. He asked Bai Ling to draw a syringe of his blood in case he needed it for future battles. Bai Ling immediately picked up a syringe that was the size of 2 grown men and drew a syringe of Lin's blood. Sure enough, now that it was thrown out as a great killing weapon, the effects were extraordinarily good. The army of over 10 million netherworld demons were all struck by it. All of the demons of hell howled with anguish and howled with anguish before becoming completely motionless. Even the several dozen return to void stage demons of hell had fallen. They struggled on the ground for a while before their vitality completely vanished, and they were reduced to corpses. The entire battlefield fell silent. Only the rain continued to fall. The ground had turned black from the corpses of countless demons of hell. Dead silence. A stretch of dead silence. Not a single one of the demons of hell was still alive. They're all dead? And they were all killed with Master's blood? Yi Ling smacked her lips as if she had just seen a new version of her master. Xian Yuancheng swallowed with astonishment. Classmate Lin's blood is even more poisonous than my bomb. Even Cassidy and the others were extremely glad that they hadn't made that decision. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they had died. This attack had stupefied all of the enemies. Even Su Xiaolan's friends were dumbstruck. Just one syringe of blood had wiped out the army of over 10 million demons of hell. This was the might of the Poison Lord. Chapter 2018. Within Yutong City near the White Nectar Sea. Xiaolan, you stay here. I'm going to Autumn Leaf City. And Lin made up his mind and was about to run out of the city. Calm down, Lin. The entire 4-9 Immortal sect has been mobilized. Are you still worried about them? Su Xiaolan hurriedly caught up to him and said in an urgent voice, The situation is changing too quickly. Don't panic. No, the trump cards of a paramount heavenly god are not something we can imagine. Our sect members are indeed very powerful. But don't underestimate the power of a paramount heavenly god. And Lin was still a little concerned. He leaped into the air and flew out of Yutong City. It was also at this moment that a sense of unease suddenly welled up in his heart. A pillar of bluish-yellow light appeared from the white nectar sea, tearing through the earth in its path. The boundless power was like the crushing weight of billions of mountains, striking one with a sense of indescribable despair. All of the Tao integration stage super mighty figures in Yutong City were given a fright, and they all flew into the air as streaks of light to survey the terrifying power approaching them. Is it targeting Yutong City? And Lin's body faltered slightly at the sight of the terrifying power imbued within the pillar of bluish-yellow light, and he gritted his teeth before appearing over 50 kilometers away from the Yutong City gate. This was the Heavenly Earth God's attack, and there was no one in the entire Yutong City aside from him and Su Xiaolan. He didn't want to expose Su Xiaolan so early on. 5 elemental body, fist of the Heavenly Tao. And Lin activated his 5 elemental power to its maximal extent, and a golden fist erupted forth from his fist. Boom! The bluish-yellow pillar of light clashed within Lin's fist, and violent energy instantly flattened everything around it as heaven and earth tremored violently. Several Tao integration stage super mighty figures had combined their powers to enhance the formation, and only then were the shock waves of the clash able to be kept at bay. The shock waves subsided, and Lin stood where he was, panting heavily. His eyes were extremely sharp as he stared into the distance. It was as if he could faintly see a youth with a divine halo above his head smiling at him. "Damn it, you're not letting me go, are you?" And Lin gritted his teeth. The Heavenly Earth God had clearly set its sights on him and was trying to trap him here. And Lin, Su Xiaolan gracefully landed on the ground, her beautiful eyes looking at Enlin with concern. She saw that Enlin's sleeves had been shattered by the previous collision, revealing his strong and sturdy muscles, but his arms were unharmed. "You don't have to worry too much. Bai Ling and the others haven't contacted you yet, which means that the situation is still within their control," Su Xiaolan consoled in a gentle voice. And Lin nodded. "Of course I know. It's just that I can't help them even though they're risking their lives there. It's such a pity." Meanwhile, in Autumn Leaf City, over 10 million demons of hell had been poisoned to death by Enlin's blood. The Heavenly Ant God's flesh crawled as chills ran down its spine. It had never seen such an absurd and incomprehensible scene. It had only been a single reign, and its army of 10 million had been wiped out. It had thought that retreating in defeat would be an unbearable humiliation. But now it had become a general without an army. After the battle, it was the only one left alive. This kind of humiliation, Xian Yuancheng, Yiling, and the others all turned toward the Heavenly Ant God. Aside from the new ant tribe within the Heavenly Parting Bead, this was the only enemy left. The Heavenly Ant God wasn't afraid of these people, but it was being attacked by the Tao integration stage super mighty figures within the Heavenly Parting Bead. So it gritted its teeth and fled into the distance. It hadn't lost yet, nor had it suffered a crushing defeat, because it represented the entire new ant race. It had retreated with the entire race, and sooner or later it would make a comeback. "Hee, I've waited for you for so long. Are you finally going to run away? Does that mean you don't have any backup plans?" A sweet voice with a hint of charm suddenly sounded. The Heavenly Ant God's expression shifted drastically upon hearing this, and it looked around. "Who is it? Where the hell are you?" It was a heavenly god, and it was confident that no one would be able to catch up to its speed. So how could there be a voice beside its ear? "Where am I?" "I'm wherever there's sunlight." A voice filled with laughter sounded. All of a sudden, a seductive young woman in a red dress appeared beside the Heavenly Ant God and lashed out with a kick toward the fleeing Heavenly Ant God. The Heavenly Ant God's heart jolted upon seeing this. It felt as if this young woman had jumped out from a ball of light. How could there be a living being that possessed such a peculiar movement technique? It hurriedly raised a hand in front of itself to defend itself. Bam! The young woman's leg was immensely powerful, and it sent the heavenly ant god flying for several hundred meters. This didn't harm the heavenly ant god, but it did impede its escape. The young woman straightened her proud figure before speaking in a sweet voice. "Elder Xiaohong of the 4-9 Immortal Sect, please enlighten me. There's a hidden Tao integration stage, super mighty figure?" The heavenly ant god stared at the woman before it with astonishment on its face. Just how many Tao integration stage, super mighty figures did the 4-9 Immortal Sect have? However, you're far too naive if you think you can stop me with just a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure. The heavenly ant god harumphed coldly before pushing its hands toward Xiaohong, upon which the black heavenly Tao ants surged toward the young woman like a surging river. Xiaohong chuckled lightly, and her body suddenly disappeared just as the swarm of tiny ants reached her. Even her aura was completely undetectable. The heavenly ant god's eyes widened. One had to realize that it was a heavenly god, yet it couldn't even detect the aura of a Tao integration stage, super mighty figure. In the next instant, a fragrant aroma wafted toward it. The young woman in the red dress suddenly appeared behind the heavenly ant god before snapping her fingers. "I think, therefore I exist. Praise the sun, and the sun shall exist forever." Boundless light suddenly erupted before the heavenly ant god's body, immediately following which a terrifying explosion of light and heat erupted, warping space and incinerating everything in its path. Boom! This was a true sun. This was not a massive fireball. Instead, this was a sun imbued with the essence of the sun and the essence of pure yang. From the perspective of Xian Yuancheng and the others, they could only see a dazzling sun suddenly appear where the heavenly ant god was situated. The light and heat emanating from it were extremely astonishing. Elder Xiaohong can create a sun now. Tang Shimin felt like he was witnessing a miracle. Xiaohong, who is normally sunbathing and cultivating, had already reached this level? Is Tao integration stage this bad *SS? Woof! Dabai felt like he had brought shame to the Enlin's beast pet team. What a powerful force! So scary! Sun Yulua's entire body trembled, and the blue dream ancient sword spirit behind him trembled as if it was about to be killed by Xiaohong's sun. Xiaohong's instantaneous creation of a sun had stunned everyone present. However, even though this sun was real, it soon disappeared. A black figure with white smoke rising from its body fell from the sky. It was none other than the heavenly ant god. Its entire body had been burned, and its expression was one of shock and confusion. It had clearly been beaten senseless by Xiaohong. Even a rookie Tao integration stage, super mighty figure from the 4-9 Immortal Sect can bully me? Am I really that weak? The once invincible heavenly ant god had fallen into a state of deep self-doubt.